Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 262, and it is March 15th, Wednesday, Whiskey Wednesday. And we've got Paddy's Day just around the corner here. We're looking forward to that. We got the Smoking 10 event for those that have been to it or have heard about it. We've been talking about it on the show. If you're in the Ohio area, we have people coming from further than that. But it's going to be this Saturday. It's sold out. I want to lead right into that. Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, one of our sponsors. They hold that every year, so make sure you put that on your calendar for next year. If you were not able to go this year, we'd love to have you. Tinderbox at Easton, the Smoking 10 event. This is the 10th annual. We have one of our guests that are on with us tonight that's going to be in attendance at the booths at the Smoking 10 event. So we'll get him on the show just in a moment here. Also, Altadis USA, we've got a second cigar from them tonight, the Romeo y Julieta, Connecticut, Nicaragua. That is our second cigar, and thank you for the continued support from Altadis USA and all the fine people there. And also, BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia, and the silver is made by Eric Espinosa, who will also be, both companies will be represented at the Smoking 10 event this Saturday as well. And you guys, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. We have several supporters, and we appreciate that support financially to keep this thing going. Keep mentioning I got to get probably a new laptop here soon. So that's going to be where some of the Patreon money goes. You want to throw a one-time contribution, you can use Venmo at Bourbon and BS.
So much for updating the studio.
So we'll get there. We'll get that. Still, it's on. It's all part of the plan, as he says, right? And also, Nate is wearing one of the hoodies. It's hard to see in the light, but it's got that barrel head on there, the Bourbon and BS barrel heads, black camel. Tonight, I'm wearing a Asylum hoodie, like I did the last time.
I also have.
No, how many layers? And you got the St. Paddy's Day
from last year,
t-shirt.
The fundraiser for St. Mark's.
Yeah. I'll be wearing that on Friday. So.
With Saturday?
No, Friday for Paddy's Day. Saturday, I'm probably wearing this. It's going to be freaking cold in that tent, man. I'm not wearing a T-shirt only. No way. I'll be hammered and I won't be able to do my job. Buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS for any of the shirts, the hoodie like he's got on. And then also we've got some other BS hoodies. We got BS swag. We've got podcast shirts on there. Just some cool stuff. So appreciate you guys doing that and rocking the gear. Make sure if you are wearing some, post it on the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook and get the more people to see what you're wearing, not just what you're drinking and smoking. All right. Without further ado, we have a frequent guest supposed to be in the garage tonight. Unfortunately, he was not able to. We had some issues.
We've all had that issue.
We've had issues like that.
We've all had it the last month.
We've got Nook Mercer from CLE and Asylum Cigars by way of Michigan right now, pouring himself a much-deserved beverage.
Oh,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome, buddy.
Might as well pour the whole thing in here, my friend.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Then you don't. I've had that since December, so thought I might as well.
What are you drinking tonight for those out there that are listening?
That is the George T. Stagg 2016.
It's a good bottle.
Fancy. You're fancy.
Yeah.
Nook, you had some car issues, unfortunately. Tell the story because it's the way it always works. Tell the story to the audience here.
Yeah, well, I was last week I was traveling Kentucky, working my way up to Columbus so I could go take part in an event on Friday.
Yeah.
So Thursday morning, coming out of Cincinnati, went and filled up, got gas. About 15 minutes into that, started having some acceleration problems, this and that. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I got some moisture in my gas at that fine gas station over in Westchester. So put some additive, went to the gas station, put some cleaner in it. It drove better. Friday morning, did the whole fuel system clean at a local Valvoline in Dayton. You know what? Jumped on the expressway, heading up to Easton, drove perfectly fine. Hung out there for a while, watched some golf and basketball, hung out with Mr. Ryan from Alec Bradley and you guys, and got in the car, went out the back, got in my car, hesitating a little bit. I'm like, maybe it's still working through the issues.
Sure.
Went out of that back parking lot, turned left, and started to make my little bend around, and I stalled out. And I'm like, all right, well, it's still running. Called Ryan. He came over. We looked at it. It moved like 10, 15 feet, stop again. Like you could put your foot on the gas. It's not going anywhere. So he scouted it out, and whatever road that is that runs behind the Hilton and all that, there's parking spots. So I got it to go enough to where we threw it in a parking spot, jumped in his car, and went over to Ed's to go do the event. And stayed there. Friday night, towed it down to Twins GMC. Shout out to those guys. And told them what happened. No check engine lights, no nothing, and found out on Monday that the transmission went on it.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I was 1,200 miles past the extended warranty on that.
There it is. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
That's it. Instead of $300 deductible, it is about $5,000. So I will be renting a car and coming to Columbus tomorrow, since I already rented, already paid for the room over at the Courtyard over by Tinderbox Easton.
Tinderbox Easton, Columbus, Ohio.
I'll be at that hotel for 3 nights. So
it's a lovely hotel, lovely Courtyard.
I will be coming to Columbus tomorrow.
Nice.
And hopefully returning to Michigan with my car.
That'd be nice. And we'd love to have you in the garage, but unfortunately, that stuff happens. It is amazing how it always happens with like warranty just being done. I had that happen with a car. My car was actually not this one, but a previous car had gotten hit, was in the body shop, went in under warranty. They had the car for 3 weeks. I got the car back. This is through the dealer, mind you. Got the car back, and it said service suspension system. And then it had, I forget, there's something else wrong with it. Got an estimate for it. It's $3,000 for these repairs, because, of course, it had magnetic ride control. Like the strut itself was like $900 some.
Oh, yeah.
I said, it was under warranty. This is a timing issue.
Yeah.
When it went into the shop, and the warranty expired while it was in the body shop, I got the car back.
Nice.
That shit was, I was like, guys, I've taken this to you the entire time I've had the car. Like, this wasn't wrong before I got the car, or I took it in there. Like, well, there's not much we can do. The warranty's up.
Was it a mileage or a date?
It was a date.
So they probably like, hey, this fucker's warranty's up in 2 days. Let's just slow roll this one and wait.
That happened. I know Steve loves his Cadillacs. I had this is when I still had my shop. I had a CTS, and brought it in for something, and it ended up being like a full electrical thing, and they did not cover it, and it was going to be like $5-6 grand or something.
Yeah. And still,
I'm like,
not
you know what?
That would fix it.
So I just turned it into them. I'm like, I'm not paying this.
That's what I ended up doing with mine. It was actually when it was my old job, and I had just been given a company car, and so I was thinking about selling my car. And sure enough, when that happened, I was like, all right, well, what will you give me for it? They ended up like splitting that difference of like $1,500 or whatever. Anyways. Let's talk about some whiskey and cigars here for part one.
All right.
For those that haven't listened to the show before, we do kind of like a review, if you will, of a whiskey typically, but a spirit in general, and then a cigar. Tonight we are featuring, this is Horse Soldier. We said, straight bourbon whiskey, right? This kind of their base.
Yes, this is their base.
This is their base product, and we'll go over that a little bit. Nate will give us a little background on that. And then we're also smoking the Eiroa Classic, which I love talking about this cigar and the tobacco that's used for this cigar. kind of the history behind Christian and where we're at with this. But yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. And then we'll rate those at the end of part 1. Then we go into the topic, and that's part 2. So thank you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy the conversation. Chime in on Facebook or YouTube. We'll try to get as many comments up on the screen as we can and include you guys in the conversation for both part 1 and part 2. So share it, like it, review it, all that good stuff. So you want to talk about the Horse Soldier first? Just kind of get it out of the way, and then we can not get it out of the way, but you know what I mean. And then Nook, we can talk about
fuck those guys, right?
Yeah, screw it. No, I didn't mean that. So
I know.
Nate, go ahead with the Horse Soldier.
So Horse Soldier has 3 main products. They have the straight bourbon whiskey, which is what we are drinking tonight. It's a 65% corn, 30% rye, 5% barley, so it is a high rye mash bill. Then they have a small batch wheated whiskey or wheated bourbon, and then they have a barrel proof wheated bourbon.
Okay.
Those are currently being distilled right here in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
They are distilled by Middle West, but then they are bottled at American Freedom Distillery in Florida. However, the group just broke ground on a distillery and a whole venue of stuff for both drinkers and non-drinkers down in Somerset, Kentucky, which is straight south of Lexington, which does play into the story behind these guys. So Horse Soldier is actually named for a group of gentlemen that were special forces that were the first soldiers deployed into Afghanistan after 9/11.
David Blanco was drinking a Horse Soldier.
Yeah. When we had David Blanco on a couple weeks ago,
excuse me. Yeah.
Yep. And he also mentioned that they have a commander's version of this, which cost $595 because that was their unit number, was 595. So they were Green Berets. They were the first ones sent in to Afghanistan, and they had to do their whole mission on horseback. So they were literally going from like Taliban stronghold to stronghold to stronghold until they hit like the main key point in northern Afghanistan. And they had to do that all in about 3 weeks.
Crazy.
So there's a movie about it on Netflix called 12 Strong. They changed the names of the people in that movie versus real life. But the gentleman that started this, the 2 gentlemen that started this were part of that unit. They created the brand, but they also had spent time in Scotland and Ireland working in the whiskey industry and learning from them. And then later on, their captain that led them through that mission joined them in the company. So if you watch the movie, that guy is the one played by Chris Hemsworth. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of a toss-up as to which was the bigger deal, leading that group of men or being portrayed in a movie by Chris Hemsworth.
I mean, I get it, but I mean, come on.
That's his words, not mine.
I know.
So this is it's a bourbon. Like I said, it's coming out of Middle West here in Columbus, Ohio. It's a blend of 2 to 4 year whiskey. A portion of each bottle actually goes to maintaining the Horse Soldier monument in New York City. They managed to get some of the steel that came from the World Trade Center, and they use that to actually make the molds for the glass bottles to be made in. So literally every single bottle that they make has been touched by steel from the World Trade Center.
It's a lot of story behind it, obviously.
Yeah.
And they are moving their operation, you said, right?
Yes. So they're going to Somerset.
And they're going to start doing their own stuff.
Yeah. So there was a golf course down in Somerset on Lake Cumberland. And so they recently partnered with a spirit company, a distributor, E&J Gallo. They're the 4th largest spirit supplier in the United States by volume.
Mm-hmm.
So they partnered with them, and it's about a $200 million project down there.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. But no, I mean, their sales have been very good in the short time that they've been around, and they've also had some financial backing as well to help with that venture. Some government help, because it's a tourist thing in the state of Kentucky. So
Yeah,
there's some incentives there,
Sure.
tax incentives. So a lot of stuff went into getting them to be able to move their operation from Florida into Kentucky. And like I said, it's going to be right on Lake Cumberland. And
beautiful area.
Yes. And what's funny is there's a river right there, the Somerset River. And if you watch the movie 12 Strong, while those guys in that unit were actually doing an exercise in the river when the events of 9/11 happened. So they didn't even know it was happening, and they were in that river when it was going on. So that's another reason kind of why they picked that area, because it was kind of, it was
top of story.
Yeah, it was kind of their home base of operation at that time.
Well, I gotta admit, I have not seen the movie. I don't know. Nook, have you seen 12 Strong?
No, it's actually in the queue on whatever it is, so I can.
It came out in 2018.
Yeah, it's good.
And these
have you seen it? I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it before, and I watched it again today.
Doing a little,
yeah.
Doing some research.
I like it. Days off on Wednesdays pays off.
Yeah. I've had better days off.
True.
But what they had actually done, because they had started this venture in 2016, they actually had put together 10 barrels of this project, and they debuted this whiskey at the premiere of the movie.
Wow. Well, it is it's an amazing story, and the way they tie in everything. This bottle, did you know that's a big pour? You know what I mean? Like when you pour it, that's tough to get in that glass, I feel like.
It's a big spout.
It's a big spout. I mean, that it comes out a little quick.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to measure. Beautiful. It's got the metal on the front of the glass here.
Yeah, so that one's like a bronze plate.
Yep.
They also so this bottle in the state of Ohio, the straight bourbon whiskey, 87 proof. It's $52.99. The wheated bourbon will have a more of a brass color plate to it.
Mm-hmm.
That one is 95 proof, and it's $72.99 in the state of Ohio. And then the barrel proof is usually coming in around 122 or so, and that'll have a silver plate on the front.
It's a gorgeous bottle. The cork even has the logo of I think what they're calling the American Freedom Distillery, and it says handmade and bottled by American Freedom Distillery in Columbus, Ohio. So that's what they're using. But as you said, Middle West. I think it's a gorgeous presentation. I think the stickers could be placed a little more centered, though. Probably didn't notice that, but I do. Stuff bothers me a little bit, but it says aged a minimum of 2 years. Got some of the story on the back. Just really, really cool packaging. So what do you think of this, Nate?
So,
and Nook, have you had this before?
I have not.
You have not? Okay.
No. When I saw Nate post the picture, I went over to the big liquor store across the street from me. Had to walk over there this morning because I don't have a car. And
right now we went over that.
Yeah. And no, they didn't have it. So
okay.
So it doesn't have the spice that I would expect from reading that it's a 30% rye mash bill.
Yeah, what's the mash bill again? 30% rye?
30% rye, 5% malted barley, 65% corn.
Okay.
But it definitely has some of that corn sweetness.
Yeah.
And I think that sticks out a little bit because of the age, because it's a 2 to 4 year blend.
Yeah, it says aged a minimum of 2 years on the bottle.
Yeah, they're basically blending, some 2, 3, and 4 year stuff. And they're going to continue to work with Middle West until their distillery and their own juice is coming of age.
Yeah, it's interesting sourcing from a smaller distillery like that, like Middle West.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But this did win a double gold in San Francisco back in 2019.
I think that's great. I feel like I don't know how many of those golds and double golds they give out.
I know,
like,
right?
Like everyone we got it.
There's 1,000 categories.
I know. I think it's pleasant. It's lighter. Sean Wilkinson's in the garage and took a sip of it before we went live, and I agree with we've been drinking some more potent stuff.
We've been drinking some bangers.
But yeah, so coming in at what was it here? It's
87 proof.
87 proof. It's not.
It's
a summer drink.
Yeah, it's a break because last week was 120.
Yeah,
that was your bottle.
You're welcome. It's a nice drink. It is a little light. It's got that sweetness, a little bit of the corn. It's kind of like a sweeter honey for me. You know, it's I don't want to say floral, but it's got a little bit of that kind of the higher notes of that. But it definitely, it's almost like that kind of. I'll throw this at you, like a sweet apple honey.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking. Do you have official notes, or do you have your notes?
I have their official notes.
Okay, we're going with those. Let's go with those.
So on the nose, toffee, sweet corn, apple.
Well, I'm tasting that. I'm not smelling it.
On the palate, caramel, vanilla, toasted corn, honey, nutmeg, custard with a hint of spicy oak. Definitely get the oak.
Yeah.
Definitely get the honey.
Yeah. I kind of want to see what's in the snack bar and game room back there. It's got a sign behind it in his apartment. Yeah. And is it downstairs?
No, I actually, when I moved from downtown Grand Rapids, there was this cool antique store that's actually over by Founders.
Okay.
And that's from a closed down bowling alley.
Got it.
So
bet there's a lot of stories in that bowling alley game room.
Oh.
And snack bar.
Don't go in there with a black light.
Anyways,
my nephew was very upset when he saw that, when he visited my new apartment, kind of pouted on my couch, and my sister's like, "What's wrong?" It's like, Uncle Luke lied to me. There's no game room.
He was looking for the snack bar and game room?
Yes. So
yeah, that is misleading. If I ever come and visit your apartment, I'm going to do the same.
There's nothing but bourbon underneath that arrow.
It's a good snack
That's
bar.
a good, yeah.
And I mean, probably games. I mean, make Cards Against Humanity or something like that. Throw that on the bar.
There we go.
Anyways, that's funny. Some of those notes I kind of got, but it is a lighter one. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Those are like, I know Jonathan Herring was out there asking. He was interested in seeing what's going on. Hey, what's up, Ray? What's up, Tyler? Jonathan, like we mentioned, Ryan Jones is out there. Who else? Boyd Collins is back listening. John, is it Curcio? I forget. He's been on before, I believe. Apologize, John.
But this doesn't have that corn water taste, though.
No, it flirts with. It's almost like when I go off of the cigar. We talk about this at the end of part one when we rate this. Coming off the cigar, it makes the whiskey. It's weird. It tastes like younger, a little harsher. But if I set the cigar down for a little bit and go to this, I take a couple sips out of the glass here, and I get more. It's more that kind of bouquet of what we're talking about here. Like I don't know. Like I'm not sure. We'll get to that as we get through this. But it's more flavorful and tastes better when I'm not hitting from the cigar so far. That's where I'm at with it so far. Yeah. Ray says, "What is part 2 all about tonight? What on earth is a drinking holiday?"
Oh, they don't have those where Ray's. I know he was here for it last year.
Yeah,
and he used to live here. He knows what Paddy's Day is all about.
Yeah, but he's from the UK and now he's out there. He's a little more looking down the nose at us Americans. Yeah, Jonathan says that was. I'll put it up on the screen here on this, and then we'll switch gears to the cigar. Jonathan Herring says that was the main thing I remembered. A little young and harsh. I was probably smoking a cigar. So, yeah, Jonathan, if you want to go back to it when you're not smoking a cigar, if you still have it in your bar or whatever, I would definitely suggest maybe not doing it Ray says they don't have them anywhere except there because you fuckers drink all the time over there.
Nah.
You don't need a holiday. You need a pub.
Yeah.
Which I'm not mad at.
No, not at all.
All right, Nook, let's get you involved here. I know you're drinking something else. We did, again, for those just tuning in live or whatever, Nook was supposed to be here, had some car issues. Luckily, he is going to be down in Columbus for the Smoking 10 event on Saturday. But as of now, we are drinking different stuff. He's not able to really smoke in his place. We just did an audible. We still wanted to get him on the show, which I appreciate.
So I actually just checked the weather, and it's actually 42. So I might take a break and go out to my balcony here.
All right, bundle up a little bit. You have light out there?
I do.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll try that here in a little bit. But so the Eiroa Classic. One of the things that we're really looking forward to this Saturday at the 10 event for those that are coming, and hopefully it won't be the last time, but we have a special guest coming with you we've had Tom Lazuka, who was more recently on the podcast. He's definitely made his presence known in Columbus, Ohio several times. But who do you have?
Been a regular fixture down there for sure.
He has. So who's joining you this year?
So this year, it's a redo. Christian Eiroa, the owner of the company, he will be in attendance. Still not sure if he's coming in Friday night or early Saturday morning. The Asylum jet will come into Columbus at some point. Mm-hmm. And he was originally supposed to be here for the 10 event COVID year.
Yeah, 2020. Oh, we were so excited for that lineup that year.
Yeah.
And he was getting ready to get on his plane too and come over. And so I'm like, dude, just stay at home. And we got locked down for a while.
Well, that was at the very beginning of it. I mean, if you remember, that was March 15th of 2020. So there were no major shutdowns quite yet, but it was happening at that time. Yeah.
I remember distinctively sitting in my hotel room, and your governor popped on, and they started closing things down little bit by little bit. And
Yep.
Luckily, a lot of the reps, we all stayed and hammered out all those deals in shop that day too. So we'll never forget that one.
Yeah.
Today on my phone, it popped up as a memory of when Nook had posted a video of that event. Yep. Like, we weren't having an event, but we were still slinging a shit ton of cigars.
And then that night, all the in Ohio, all the restaurants closed down officially that evening,
6 p.m.
Yeah. So we just got it in, but so we've got Christian Eiroa coming to the Smoking 10 event. That's why we wanted to line up Nook and smoke one of his. This is called the Eiroa Classic. Mm-hmm. What do you got there? CLE.
So this is what we will be. We figured that, you know what, we're going to go with the cigar that we were supposed to do in 2020. We're going to do the
Azabache
for the event.
Nice.
Yeah. So so Christian will be handing that out.
Yes. And then we're going to do another bonus cigar at a really good price at the sales table. Kind of St. Patrick's Day, our Asylum 13 Ogre. That'll be there.
Okay.
That'll be there. Yeah, it's a heck of a pack from you guys. So yeah, check it out if you guys are coming. So let's talk about this cigar. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So the Eiroa Classic, that was the first launching of the Eiroa line for us. Originally, if you can find them out there in the wild, a lot of people search for them. I still do too. I think I maybe have 3 left here at home. When we originally launched it, it was uncelloed, not even the tissue wrap that you get now. They were in little small 10 count boxes with the lid that just lifted off. And that's how we launched it at the trade show maybe 8 years ago or so when that one came out. So it's a Honduran Puro. It's all of our authentic Corojo tobacco, 3 to 4 years age. Christian will never say, what primings, this and that. He'll give you a roundabout. He does not like saying, there's still one of our cigars in the portfolio. He's never even told Tom what the makeup of the cigar is. When the FDA said you don't have to say, he doesn't say.
Yeah.
So, but when the Eiroa Classic, it was actually Cigar of the Year in European Cigar Journal, Cigar of the Year in Spain. So it's got a lot of accolades tied to it.
Yeah, and you say authentic Corojo. Now, for those that haven't, heard Christian speak, seen you or anyone on the podcast before, what does that mean exactly? Because I know there's a lot of pride. You guys are based out of Honduras.
Yes.
And there's a lot of pride when you say authentic. A lot of times people do the what is it, Corojo 99?
Corojo 98, Corojo 99, which is popular in the 90s because I started in 97 in the cigar shops. It is Corojo. They make Corojo in other countries, but most of them they're hybrids. That's where the Corojo 98, Corojo 99 comes from. But that was the pure Corojo seed that Christian's father brought over from Cuba. When you say authentic Corojo, that's
pure. What you mean. It's not the hybrid. It's not the one that you typically will see elsewhere, which is pure. Great tobacco. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to talk bad about it.
No. Like there's a lot of hybrids that I like. I happen to work for the company that makes the ours is pure. And when Christian owned his previous company too, that's what it was all based on. It was like Christian started the full-bodied cigar movement back in the late 90s when that cigar came out. That was really, really full-bodied. That was like first generation, pure Corojo. So,
is this all Corojo, or is it a mixture of tobaccos?
No, that's a Corojo Puro.
So it's a Honduran, and it's all Corojo coming from your farms, right, or from Christian's farms.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So,
what would you classify this as far as body?
It's
strength?
Medium plus.
Okay.
It's right on the end of the spectrum of medium to full.
Yeah.
So, because Christian ages the tobacco longer. Back in during the old company, he didn't ferment the tobacco as long, so it was a lot more full bodied. But his tastes have changed over the years, and he tends to age the tobacco longer.
Yeah, it's a fantastic medium. What do you think of this, Nate?
So I don't know about you. Mine's got a real light, easy draw. Like mine seems to be burning a little fast. I don't know if it's if that's on my end, but I mean it's an effortless draw. Still, I mean it's not canoeing or anything like that. With this one, I always get like this deep cedar flavor to it, like a lot of wood notes, a lot of cedar notes to it. And that's not just because of the high quality cedar you guys use in your boxes. But I mean, just the cedar and earthiness, kind of this little bit of bitter nuttiness on the back end of it. But I mean, it's an incredibly smooth cigar given the strength of it. For me, I put this almost like a straight medium for me personally, but it's got a lot of flavor and it's smooth.
Yes, I would agree with a lot of that. It's in the retrohales where I feel like I get some strength kick up there.
Yeah.
You've got that cedary. What's that?
I said exactly. That's a lot of the attributes of the authentic Corojo. On that retrohale, that's where you'll get, like some of the spice notes to it. Yep. My personal favorite is the soft box press, the 48x4. That is one of my favorite sizes.
And love that size and everything you guys do. Don't you?
What's that?
You love that size and all the ones you do that.
Yeah. We do it in the Eiroa CBT also.
Yeah.
The Almadero.
That's fantastic. So I got a question here just from the audience, before and I got Sean here, but Real quick here from Ray, he says, in his opinion, if I can pull this up here, let's see, boom. Why does Honduran tobacco take a? Sorry, my screen's going all over the place. Take a backseat to Dominican Republic and Nicaragua now. I really enjoy Honduran cigars. Am I biased because I lived there before? And Jonathan Herring's
actually,
good question because he agrees that Honduran has taken a backseat.
You know what? And so, a lot of people know, and I've said it numerous times when I've been on the show. I also come from the retail setting. Did 16 years on the retail side in Michigan, and Honduran tobacco has always, for some reason, always had a bad stigma. And Christian tried to change that with his previous company, and a lot of people didn't even know that those came from Honduras. But that's Christian, born and raised in Honduras. We're very, very Honduran proud, but it's always been a stigma, not mentioning other companies, but they've always been like two of the biggest. It's funny, two of the top selling cigars in the cigar market came from Honduras, and that's what people know of Honduras, really. Like those two cigars, you carry them in the store. They've been a staple forever in the cigar industry, and that's just when people think.
Can you tell us what those two cigars are? Because
I don't know. I always try to be like politically correct, but Punch and Hoya de Monterrey.
Oh yeah, I was like thinking like other like families and stuff.
No, but that's what what people always thought. That's what you get from Honduras.
Yeah,
that was it. And actually, that the General Cigar Factory is like directly across the street from our factory. There was a horse tied to a tree when I was there in December. In January.
Was it someone's horse? Did we know?
No, I guess somebody rode it to work that day. I'm not sure, but I found that
guys into our whiskey here.
Yep.
Sean, what's your question?
Just wanted to share my thoughts on the cigar. I do have a question as well. I love the
two-parter.
Yes, I do love the flavor on the retro. Definitely get some cedar on it. Really smoky too. I love the smoke that kind of billows out when you're smoking. I think just the easy draw allows that more smoke to probably come out that way. With the ash though, I don't know if you guys see this. I noticed as I've been ashing it, like it kind of splays out as it burns. Why is that?
A little loose on the ash.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I've noticed that as well, and I don't want to say anything definitive, but I do know that and this is not, I mean, it could be a reflection of the humidor tinderbox, but do our best, obviously, this time of the year in the Midwest with this roller coaster weather and humidity.
It's terrible.
It's been terrible. Plus, we're getting a lot of product. I can't remember if this came in more recently with the last shipment. I don't know. I took it out of a box.
It could have come in cold
from down south to the Midwest on the cold trucks and the warehouse and everything else. So I'm not. Because I have not experienced my cigar did the same thing, and I have not experienced that with this cigar, so I wasn't really pushing it. But I mean, I get what you're saying. That's an honest feedback there.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. I mean, I still love it. I'm just curious. It didn't bother me at all, but I was just curious as to why. But Nook, I've always loved Eiroa products, and I remember a few years ago during the it was right when COVID hit, and we had kind of that makeshift smoking tent event / outside Fido, but
smoking tent event, non-tent event.
Yeah.
There it is.
We
had the 4-packs.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. I got those 4-packs, and that's the first time I really got into the Eiroa cigars, and holy shit, dude.
Right.
Those are amazing. Yeah. You gave me a 10 sign last year at the smoking tent event with Eiroa, and I got that displayed proudly in my house, just so you know.
Right above his master bed.
Yeah, my wife loves it.
Teresa's like, can we take that down yet?
That's what we like.
What do you think? I mean, you like the cigar. I mean, you already kind of gave your feedback there.
Yeah, but I've always enjoyed this cigar, and when we had those 4-packs, so at the tinderbox, the 4-packs that we had 3 years ago, you had the Eiroa Classic, the 20-year Colorado, the 20-year Maduro, and the CBT.
Yes.
And I know we have featured the CBT on the show.
Love me a CBT.
So here's
Yes.
what's funny.
I
because
vaguely remember that.
Yeah, because that summer I actually posted because I had gotten a couple of those 4-packs because I love these cigars.
Not for resale.
Not for resale.
Just kidding.
Correct. I'd gotten some of the 4-packs and I had posted a picture online where I actually was holding them in the order that I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many people that wanted to come through the screen and fight me on that.
Nice.
So
What happened?
well, for example, Eric Goldhaber.
Well, very opinionated. Good guy, but very opinionated.
This is his absolute favorite
I
in
can
that
see that.
pack. This is his
Eiroa
absolute
Classic, Eiroa CBT, which is the counterpart to this one here, which was the
Yeah.
all Maduro, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you have the Eiroa 20-year
20
Colorado
year,
and the original 20-year,
the original
which is now
20,
the Maduro, I guess you could call it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the 20-year Maduro was my favorite. Then
That's
the
my-
CBT. So like mine, it goes the 20-year Maduro, the CBT, then the Colorado, and then this one.
Okay.
So so when I posted that, oh my gosh, there were so many people going, yeah, you have that completely backwards. I'm like, well, to each their own
What's
palate.
your opinion, man?
Mhm.
Yeah, but Eric wanted to fight me on that one. Now that he's moved back, hey, I'm right here.
Ding, ding.
You know what we can do?
But-
Hey, my next time on the podcast, maybe we do it during the summer when we actually bring out the little
party?
kiddie pools that we talked about a long time ago.
We've been talking about that for
Oh,
so
Jesus.
long.
You know what? We're doing it now.
What
this
is the
summer?
We'll
We're doing
coincide. I'll see if I can
Yeah.
plan a block party on my cul-de-sac. And it'll be sponsored. Everyone's gonna be like, "What? It's sponsored by Asylum Cigars?" Because Tom will be here, you'll be here. We'll do a podcast. We'll have the whole. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Sean, you can't come. You're in Tanager Woods too, so sorry.
well, I know you guys also do the Yamastron and the Eiroa
God.
Dark.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
remind me and our listeners the makeup of the Eiroa Dark? Because I thought that one was all Corojo.
It is.
Okay.
So that is really like, because I've talked to Christian a lot about it. That one is really a throwback to one of his original cigars that was known as the Dark Natural.
Okay.
That you got to go way back to get that reference, but that's a good throwback to that, like under fermenting the Corojo tobacco a little bit. And that's where you really get you know what, if you throw all the Eiroa cigars in there, that's probably going to be my favorite.
The Eiroa Dark.
That it's a toss up between that and the first 20-year Maduro.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, and Christian would smack me, but I would love to see 48x4 or a Lancero in the Eiroa Dark. It'll never happen, but
It'll never happen, right? Not with that wrap relief. That's a more
No,
limited wrap relief, right? That you guys do
Yeah.
for the Eiroa
Yep.
Dark. Yeah.
because we had some customers down in Honduras in January. Steve couldn't make it. But yeah, because that came up with our retailers that were down there about Eiroa Dark. And while we were in the field, Christian, he just said, he's like, listen, these are the primings that, the wrap relief comes from. The amount of time I have to age everything, we just don't have a lot to go around.
Yeah.
So
That's an amped up, I feel, version of this cigar we're smoking, the classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
That's one that definitely sneaks up on you a little bit, I think, as you're smoking it, because it's kind of like this one, but it's punched up a bit. So a lot of those, like the spice is punched up. Obviously the strength, I think, is punched up a little bit as well. But I mean, it's
Which is what makes it ironic for me, because like I said, I like the first 20-year Maduro and the CBT the most from his lineup,
yeah.
but I like this classic more than the dark.
Okay.
Really.
Yeah, just because like how
See, now-
smooth,
See,
just
now
how
Nate and I
how smooth and flavorful this is. It's
What do you say?
I said, so now Nate and I are going to fight now. We're just going to have a all
You're not allowed to have an
battle royal.
opinion, apparently.
Right.
Your opinion's wrong, sir. across the board.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
There you go. No, I like this. It's a great line. This is more of the. It's cool to see. Also, I think with CLE, primarily CLE, not to talk about Asylum like we did when Tom was on more, which is like the sister company of CLE, right? The Eiroa is kind of like the flagship line, in my opinion, from what I've seen from you guys. You have the CLE line, which you've got a CLE Corojo, you have a Connecticut, a Habano. What else do you have? You have obviously the Azabache, which we're going to be featuring. You have the Prieto, the
Chile. You got the Habano, Connecticut, Corojo.
Yeah, the
25th
Chile and
anniversary.
Yeah, the Chile and Prieto were the first Nicaraguan cigars that Christian ever put his name on.
Right. Yeah, and then you have the Eiroa.
So,
is there a CLE? Is there a CLE Maduro?
And we also have new packaging now.
That's the signature there.
Yep.
And you guys saw, if you're watching this and not listening, just there's the piece of cedar. Something unique to that's a beautiful presentation. There's something unique to CLE products, and that is the cedar is coming off of your guys' property, correct?
Yes. So, and also in our box factory, the new box factory that Christian built, when we had the customers down, they got to see the whole process. And actually, if you go on, it's on Eiroa on Instagram and also Christian's account. He did, I believe it was last week or early this week, shared the process on how we make those sheets of cedar that go into the box. Because there's
it's thicker than most.
It's rooms of these massive, just like railroad tie looking pieces of cedar.
Yeah,
they go in a room, they age for a while, they bring them out, and then they run them through this machine that cuts out like these razor thin pieces that go into the box. The whole process is just amazing. We do every box, everything is done in-house.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'd love to go see it, obviously. But the cedar it's a thicker piece of cedar than most that you see in cigar boxes. And when you open up a box of CLE or Eiroa cigars, especially, it is
the smell.
It's like opening a, I don't know. It's like one of those, like it's the high end humidor almost smell.
Yeah.
That's been seasoned well. It's got some good cigars in the humidor.
It's like a cedar closet.
Yeah.
Or a brand new humidor.
Because
walking into a wood shop.
Yeah, because there's rooms in our massive compound down there. A lot of that stuff was built over like the COVID years, and I hadn't been down there in over 3 years. And to see these rooms where he stores all this cedar before they're moved out, and made into boxes, the sheets, but it's an amazing process to watch.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember also you've talked about it when you were on previously. Your guys' operation down there in Honduras is Bear certified. So there's zero waste. When you guys, cut down a cedar tree, you plant another one. Any materials or chemicals that you use are all food grade and safe for consumption.
The same pesticides that Dole uses on their fruits and vegetables, what have you. It's the same ones that we use. So we are zero impact on the environment.
That's
like even
phenomenal.
like the water and everything. Like everything is it's all recycled. Reverse osmosis, like everything that we do. It costs more, but in the long run, we're helping the environment out a lot.
And that's something you guys have been doing for a while, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it takes 6 or 8 years to be certified. And last time I checked, I believe we're the only Bayer certified tobacco company in the world.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a bold, I guess, strategy for you guys to do that because you care and you go that extra mile with all of that. It's something that a lot of people don't know about it. Again, when all this like FDA talk and all this stuff, they're talking about like the safety of people, and there's you guys take it a step further. A lot of the families and companies, I mean, they take pride in this. They're not cutting corners. This is a very traditioned industry that there's a lot of pride there. And Christian and your company have taken it a step further than most. And it's pretty, amazing. Just really cool to see the inspiration behind that.
And it's nice, like when we go, when the customers got a chance to go down there, and we're gonna ramp things up next year with taking more people down there, and the people that got to go, you're actually, we were eating lunch in one of the homes that Christian grew up in, which is connected to the factory. So
really,
it's his grandfather's old movie theater, and one of the wings of the building was the house that he grew up in. So
that's really cool. Really cool.
And that's where, Christian wants to take care of, in essence, like his people. That's where he's from. And yeah.
Yeah, it's Christian's a great guy. Also, for those, love to get him on the show at some point. I hope to, maybe bend his ear when he's in town this weekend. But
are we still doing the panel?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be doing the panel during the lunch hour or so. So it'll be around like 3:00 or so. We'll get Christian, and he'll be joined by previous guest Ricky Rodriguez, who was on last week, David Blanco the week before that, and then also Hector Alfonso is taking the place of Eric Espinosa, since Eric's unfortunately booked elsewhere. That was kind of a conflict in his schedule, unfortunately. So Hector's been on the show before. He is the
Mr.
operations
Positivity,
Mr. Warmth.
Mr. Warmth. That's right.
Hector's great, definitely. So what do you got there?
So this is a bottle that I bought a couple years ago. So it is
Bardstown.
It is Bardstown, but it is the Founders Edition.
Ooh.
So
Kentucky Bourbon Stout.
Yep, aged in those barrels. And it's funny though, like when I cover Kentucky, and when I go down to the distributors down there, whether it be Party Source, Total Wine, Liquor Barn, this one actually goes for a decent amount. Going rate that I've seen in their stores, $185, $195. If you buy it in Michigan, where Founders is located, I think I did $145 on this one.
Wow.
Huh.
This bottle was full, and then I had a bunch of friends that were in town for a big concert before I left Grand Rapids. Everybody came over afterwards, and we opened up a lot of bottles on my bar that didn't really want to, but I'm like, hey, it's my last weekend in Grand Rapids,
right?
And they're all huge bourbon guys, this was one of them that was on top the list for them to try.
That's neat. That's
so
definitely
we drank,
cool.
So we drank it all the way to the label. So
I like that though. Now you can see the KBS. It's nice.
Yeah.
They're gonna take a pull out of the bottle there. Like, Jesus, dude. Just get another glass.
You know what? It broke.
The cork broke.
Well, the plastic part.
The cap came off the plastic cap of the cork, like the metal cap came off the plastic part.
You know what? That's been my beef a lot lately. I've had bottles that have done this. So I guess that's saying to
I did that one time here in the garage.
But I drank out of that not too long ago. But so
is that Dragon's Milk?
This is the original launch from 3 years ago. It was during COVID. This is Dragon's Milk bottled in bond. This is actually a cool story. The last bottle that they had, you could only buy this at the two pubs, one in Holland, one in Grand Rapids. If you're ever out in Grand Rapids, go to the Knickerbocker. It is a beautiful place. They have so much one-off bourbons there. Hold on. I know I'm sidetracking here.
That's fine. Ray says, "Who's running the show?" Nook is running the show right now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So,
It's
like,
fine.
you know, they do these weird one-off things
Huh?
that
What does that
you
say?
know,
What rye?
Does that say
it,
Cameroon rye?
it's Sharuka rye. It's a
Sharuka.
straight malt whiskey, 80 proof. But the thing is, they do so many one-off. Steve, I think I told you about one of them that I had, and the stuff is amazing. But they only make like 100 bottles. They throw them in the tap rooms, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
So they're actually doing a big drop. I think it's next week for Dragon's Milk. Doing because they just released 2 new beers, and they're going to drop a bunch of different variants of this. But this was the last one that they had. I was there during COVID, and bought a couple bottles just to help those guys out while we were all sitting outside in snow. You know, Grand Rapids, there's 2 feet of snow outside, and actually called the owner, and this is off their upstairs bar. They sold me the last bottle that they had. So,
that's awesome. You got a lot of good connections up there, that's for sure.
But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and drink that one.
So you're making the best of not being here in the garage. You got a little variety going on, you know. It's fantastic.
I don't know. There's 30 bottles behind me. So
all right, well, you're
sorry for hijacking the show, but
you're fine. You're fine. Absolutely. But we will get to towards the end here of part 1. Again, smoking the Eiroa Classic. We're drinking Horse Soldier, more or less as we consider it. Basically, their kind of base line.
Yeah, this is their
product.
base, straight bourbon whiskey. Like I said, they have this, and then they have the wheated bourbon, and then the barrel proof wheated bourbon.
Got it. And some, limited ones as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the Commanders.
Yeah. So we're drinking that tonight. It's 87 proof, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So this is where we do the ratings. So we do 3 different ratings. 10 is the best, and we rate the whiskey, we rate the cigar, and we rate the pairing. Nook, you haven't had the whiskey. You definitely have smoked the cigar. So give us, I guess, your opinion of the Eiroa Classic, if you could.
You know, I'm trying to think of, you know, like what your bourbon is like, you know, and like what Jonathan said too, like he was smoking a cigar, he got a different aftertaste.
Yeah.
Is it so? Because, you know, a lot of people don't know, you know, what you drink while smoking your cigar can definitely clash with the palate, 100%. I say that in all the shops I go to, but do you still get that weird aftertaste with the bourbon? Has it changed at all since you've gotten into the cigar?
Not the finish. The finish hasn't really done anything. Just because I think, you know, as Sean alluded to, 87 proof, it's kind of on the lighter side of some of the stuff that we've done lately. But I'm glad that this is the cigar that we are, because I told Steve this was the bottle that we were going to do yesterday. So I'm glad if we were going to do an Eiroa cigar, I'm glad this is the one that we're doing, because I think most of the other Eiroa cigars would have overpowered this.
Could have, or if we went like CLE route. But I mean, we originally talked about having Nook in the garage. We were going to do the Azabache, which I don't think would have gone very well.
No, wouldn't have. If you would have done something higher proof, like, all right, like I just drank the Stag. So, you know, and I've never had it before. I don't know much about it because I got a lot of heat when I first took my first sip off of it. It changed, but maybe that would have went well with the Azabache, because the Azabache is very full-bodied, a lot of spice to it. But, you know, Eiroa, I love Eiroa, and I'm not going to give you a rating because it'll be biased, but
fine, you don't have to. Whatever.
You know what?
How about
it was Cigar Journal Cigar of the Year. That's all I have to say.
That's all you have to say. Fair
And
enough.
it was also voted best cigar out of Honduras, along with Eiroa first 20-year regular in Colorado.
Yeah.
So, but
Fair. All right. Sean, do you want to chime in here since you're in the garage, the live audience, representing, smoking the Eiroa Classic and drinking the Horse Soldier straight bourbon whiskey?
Yes. The cigar, I love it. I've always been a fan of Eiroas and CLEs and stuff, so I'm going to give it a 9. I just love the flavor on the palate, and the retro just brings so much more out, like you said. And I mean, it's a cedar and just damn. The bourbon, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I do like the fact that it is a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
It's just been so long, I forgot what a light one tastes like anymore. But it definitely, you can definitely take I get more of the flavor notes that you guys brought up. A lot of times that heat can sometimes be hard to catch because all of a sudden you're already focused on the heat and you're like, Jesus Christ. But now it's more like, oh, I can taste those notes. The combination, I think they went really well hand in hand. I'm going to give out an 8.5 as well. I just think that it's not like, I mean, this is a medium full cigar.
Medium plus, not quite medium full.
Plus, yeah.
Medium. Okay, so I just think it's nice to have something a little lighter and just a medium. I mean, I don't know. It's got a good combination. Again, as I did the whole like take a sip or take a hit of cigar, then take a sip, and vice versa, and different flavor notes came out. I always love that.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Hey, how about you, Nate?
So with the whiskey, I'm going to give the whiskey a 7.
Okay.
I do enjoy the bottle. It is nice to kind of change pace and do something a little lighter, smoother. Does have a nice subtle sweetness. I don't think it's those big fruit notes or that heavy caramel or butterscotch. That honey that you picked up on, I think is very accurate. There's not a lot of depth to this one, and it does taste a little young. You know, it's a 2 to 4 year. It does have that oakiness on the finish of it. And you know, it's also a $53 bottle. I mean, we've had some other bottles on this show that have been lights out, you know, in that 30 to 40 to $50 range.
Yeah.
So it's a good whiskey. It's a little bit of a stretch for what you're getting at that price point. That being said, I think the full proof, the barrel strength, even though it's coming in at $80, that one, I'd say that one's definitely worth that price point because of what you're getting with that one. And you got to be careful because that one will sneak up on you. We had a gentleman in the shop learning that the hard way.
Yeah.
Like, we had a rep come in and he brought a Horse Soldier barrel proof, and he's like, yeah, if you guys want to have a pour, and we're like, hey, just to let you know, guys, that's like 120 proof, so take it easy. And we had to let some people know.
What about the cigar?
Cigar, I'm an 8 on the cigar, and the reason I give it an 8 is because there's so many of the other Eiroa cigars that I like more than this one. So I have to give room for those other cigars.
I got you.
I love this one, but I love the 20-year Maduro, the CBT the most. Like those I keep in my humidor at all times because even during the summertime, like when it's nice and warm outside, after my steak and wine Sunday, smoking one of the 20-year Maduros or CBT after the steak dinner, either finishing off that bottle of wine or with a higher proof whiskey, I absolutely love that combination because I've smoked some of those and made fuller proof whiskeys taste a lot sweeter than they do on their own.
How about the pairing of the two?
Pairing, I think it's a solid pairing. I give an 8 on the pairing. I think the cigar brings out a little bit more sweetness up front on the whiskey. But I do like what you said earlier, Steve, about if you let the whiskey sit for a little bit and just focus on the cigar and then go back to the whiskey, that brings back some of the original flavors of this whiskey a little bit more. So the cigar can kind of mute some of the flavors, but I do think it brings out a little bit more of that honey type sweetness up front.
Okay.
So I think they go well together. I don't think either one overpowers the other.
Yeah, I think they've paired better as we've smoked the cigar. You know, like Nook was asking about. You know, as we've gotten into it, right off the rip, that the whiskey was a little. Oh, if you guys listened since the beginning of the show, I mean, it was a little bit has a little bit of harshness to it in the finish. You know, it's a little brash in my opinion, but the whiskey overall, I'll give it a 7.5. I love the story. I've had the barrel proof. I have not had this one. I didn't. It's funny. I didn't realize. I guess I haven't seen this one as much because when you said it was like $50 some, I thought all the horse soldiers that I'd seen were coming in higher price points. So for this being there, if you will, the baseline bottle at 53,
$52.99, because the next one up is $20 more.
Yeah, 53. You know, for the story, I think it's cool. If I'm going to buy a horse soldier product, I would probably bump up, kind of like what you're doing with the cigar. I would probably, if I'm going to have it on the bar to share and tell the story, I'll probably do like the barrel proof or another one of their bottles, you know, just to have it. Because for $50 some, there's a lot of other, you know, lighter proof whiskeys that I would rather have.
Well, and I
on
think
my bar that because I probably wouldn't gravitate back to this. This, you know, for that price point, it's a little higher than for me what I call like a daily sipper. And for the $50 some, I probably wouldn't go back to it just to make sure I always have this bottle on my bar. But it is a nice sipping whiskey. It's lighter. You know, we talked about earlier the flavor profile's there, but it did get a little harsh. Now that I've had, you know, a couple glasses of it, the harshness has gone away a little bit on there, and that could be part of the cigar too. Because as I've gotten into the cigar, the Eiroa Classic, it's funny that Nate says what he said because when you guys first came out with the CBT and the Classic, right, like that time frame, I always liked the old CBT, if you will, right? So when you guys came out with the CBT, I was like, dude, like that's. And it's hard to not compare sometimes when you see this, like this is the Eiroa Classic and this is the Eiroa CBT. And I just love that CBT blend so much that I smoked this and it was just like, this is a good cigar. Now, as I've gone back a little bit more away from all the full body stuff all the time, I'll give this cigar an 8.5 because although it's not necessarily always a go-to for me from your guys' portfolio, because like as Nate said, there's a lot of competition within your portfolio. I mean, you know, I love the Eiroa Dark. I love the CBT. I do like the first 20-year collection there. And even some of the other like CLE, love the Azabache, like the Prieto, you know what I mean? The Chile, for example, like is a great cigar. It sells like crazy. People love that. They love the CLE Connecticut. But I gravitate towards some of your guys' fuller bodied stuff. Smoking this objectively 8.5, that's where this is. I love Corojo tobacco. And typically I like Nicaraguan over Honduran, like we talked about earlier in the show. Why does Honduran tobacco? This is a true testament to what Honduran tobacco is capable of. And I think that's, you guys do that with CLE over and over again. So that's why smoking this objectively, it's a fantastic cigar. It's got a lot of flavor. It doesn't just, you know, it's not one dimensional, but it also, in a sense, is consistent throughout. I think it builds a little bit, but I mean, this is you know what you're getting with this cigar, I think, time in, time out. The construction typically is very strong. The one I'm smoking tonight, the construction was a little bit like we were talking about, a little bit flaky. I think it's the time of the year. I think it's the fact that we just got them in the shop, you know, the shipment, you know, all that stuff. Those are factors this time of the year. And I mean, I'm getting calls for those out there that are big, you know, cigar smokers that you're in the Midwest. I'm getting calls frequently about cigars dry, like they feel dry, my humidor is struggling, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that's what happens when it goes from 70 degrees one day and then the next day or 2 days later it's 35 degrees and you're pumping out heat and you got your windows open one day and then you're pumping out heat and it's going. I mean, like I always try to explain to people, like my hands are super dry this time of the year because it's dry outside, and in my house, when you pump your heat in your house, it's dry heat. So we do have those issues on the construction, but 8.5 on the cigar. The pairing, it's gotten better. I know what Sean said, what you said. It's not my favorite pairing because at first, like I said, it was like, smoking the cigar, going back to the whiskey.
Yep.
The whiskey was kind of like, it tasted different. But now, like pacing it and doing it a little bit differently, the whiskey's a little bit better. The cigar, I think, has held up. I mean, definitely held up on its own. I mean, it doesn't really change with this whiskey.
Yeah.
So it's an okay pairing, but I would definitely, as you guys mentioned, I would pick something else probably next time to smoke with this bottle, and I'd pick a different bottle to go with this smoke. That's what I would say.
Okay. So what's your pairing number?
7.5. I think that's what I said. But that's what I'll say. As far as with that, they're not always winners. I had never had this whiskey, but I do think it goes well enough. Like, you're not going to be like, oh my God, like I can't, like, let's switch the bottle. Let's switch the cigar. I mean, it's definitely a doable pairing, in my opinion.
You always have to break the ice with some cigar.
Yeah.
When you're doing a pairing off a new bourbon. But,
Absolutely.
because I talk to customers a lot about it, and, it's been a good topic so far today because of the cigar about, the weird weather that we have. We're all in the Midwest here. And like when I used to bring in shipments from the store and it's cold, let that stuff sit in the shop before I put it in the walk-in humidor, sit for 24 hours, then bring it into the humidor, and hopefully, cigars are okay. But, always run.
Yeah, it is. And like, people don't think about that. They'll see you on the, like, hey, what'd you get in today? And you tell them, like, oh, I'll take one of those. And it's like, dude, it's 20 degrees outside. And that UPS truck that it came in on, it's been in the warehouse. It's been, it's been driven up here. And then even today, it's been sitting out in the cold. Our delivery didn't get in until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh yeah. I used to tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm not selling you anything out of that box right now. Especially because you're notorious for being a complainer. I'm not selling.
Related, sort of. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But for part one, I appreciate you guys listening. We're going to click over to part two if you're listening on the audio here. But I do want to thank Nook for making the time. I know, again, for those who are just tuning in live, had some car issues, which it seems to be going around this time of the year. But we hope you get down here safely. But we appreciate you taking time to be a part of part one. And I know you're going to stick around for part two.
Yeah, no problem, man. I wasn't going to miss this. And like I said, I will be down there tomorrow, probably hanging out at Tinderbox Easton tomorrow night and Friday night. So,
Friday will be fun too.
Your weather, it's supposed to be warm. And then just for the 10 event, as normal, it's going to be cold.
It's going to just kick you in the nuts.
Just like last year.
If you can find them.
So I will make a request on behalf of my thin-skinned boss.
You guys will be on the side of the heaters. I already got you.
All right, cool. It's not like Lazuka. Well, actually, Lazuka bailed on me last year and went and stood next to Alan Gold for the second half. So, all right.
Yeah, well. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Ray always gives me shit. He says, does Nook drive a Cadillac when we talked about car problems? He did it.
I already brought up my Cadillac issue, Ray.
That's right. He's not a fan of American cars, I don't think. So with that, we'll lead into part two here. But I want to thank our sponsors. Obviously, we're focusing a lot this week, and we have been leading up to it. That's one of the reasons we have Nook on here. The timing-wise was with the 10 event, Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. The event is sold out. But again, we have a little waiting list. But thank you, everyone, for the great response. We are sold out at 250 people. Can't really get that many more people in there, especially because we're doing all one ticket this year where everyone's coming in at 10:30 a.m. So that first hour, if you're listening to this and you're coming to the 10 event, pick your strategy. You don't have to hit the cigar tables first. You don't have to hit the sales table first unless you want to make sure you get that. You want to find a seat. There's going to be enough chairs for everyone, but make sure you make room for people. It's one of those things. You see someone standing there and you have a couple chairs at your table, invite them over to sit down, make it your friend. The bar will be open pretty much as you walk in, and you got brunch and lunch and everything like that. So pick your strategy. Don't necessarily get frustrated with the fact that there's 250 people all walking into the same huge room, and you think you have to get your cigars first, or you have to do this, you have to do that. Trust me, that first hour. Huh?
Tickets go in order. So,
tickets go in
remember
order.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be, like I said, the first hour will be a little bit of a shit show as far as the crowd, but realize that we have all day in the tent. So it's take your time.
And it's not like you're going to miss out on any of the cigars. There's each table has enough cigars for every single person. So
there is FOMO for the people that aren't coming to the tent event.
Yeah, don't give me a Rob Patel ticket. I'm not giving you Rob Wilson cigars. So, it's is what it is.
Yeah, for those that have watched or listened to the podcast for a while, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces in the tent. So that's going to be fantastic. I also want to thank all. Go ahead.
Real quick. As we were talking about Eiroa, it was a fun fact since this is the 10-year anniversary of the 10 event.
Correct.
So the first year that I was in attendance, we actually did CBT, hit it out of the ballpark on the very first launch of our company with the with your guys' event. Thought it was a milestone year. Thought I'd bring up the first time.
Fantastic. And now we got Christian himself coming. So I do want to thank also Altadis USA for the support of the show. They're going to be in attendance of the event as well. You're going to see a familiar face. Josh Bentley is going to be at the table along with some other Altadis employees, but he said that he won't miss it, even though he's doing key accounts now, but he is going to be there. What's that?
I said big time's going to show up.
Big time's showing
That's
up.
Right.
Can't go away from some of his what he considered his like babies, as far as events and such. So we appreciate that support.
I saw him
always.
Yeah,
he was at Woodlands in Delaware, Ohio.
Yeah.
BS Cigar Company, gold and silver are available. If you are coming into the Columbus area, make sure you stock up on what you can, the gold and silver, and pick some of those up. And also you guys, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast or Venmo at Bourbon and BS for contributions to the show. We appreciate that. We do this out of my garage, almost like Wayne's World style, public access here. But yeah, it definitely helps out here that you guys do that. And then if you want some swag, there's some cool stuff. Buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. We appreciate your guys' support on that. And I remember last year at the tent, it was the first tent since, the COVID years and everything else. We had launched the Bourbon and BS community page, and we launched the buyjack.com stuff. And sure enough, there was a lot of Bourbon and BS BS swag being represented at the tent.
Sean Anderson and his big build wearing that bright pink t-shirt. One. Oh yeah, that was great.
Josh Bentley's father-in-law Lou was rocking the green that you have on.
Yeah.
So even Josh Bentley had the green one on too. So appreciate that. Check that out. And then like I said, we're going to go a quick intermission for those watching live. If you're listening to the audio, click over to part 2. Enjoy your Whiskey Wednesday. Happy St. Paddy's Day coming up, and happy Smoking 10 event weekend for everyone. Thank you. Cheers. Clear. Cigar time. Look at this shirt that he's got on.
Yeah, that's more prototype swag.
I like that.
That we Honduras. So, ooh.
Yes. Yes, you can. I think Jonathan Herring brought that actually. But yeah, you can wear the Cigar Superfan 80s foam hat. Basically, that's like the most unflattering. Yeah, right. Yeah, perfect.
So, Steve, I talked to the ladies in the office. So we didn't have the custom humidors didn't arrive. So I thought that might be in there, but apparently there's a whole lot of. We actually did ashtrays for the first time. I've never seen them. But I guess
I saw ashtrays. I saw tumblers.
Yeah. So
I mean, I didn't open it. I mean, you can see what it. I mean, there was a lot of swag.
Well, yeah. So you are the first event to have all of our new swag.
Love that.
Woo-hoo.
Love that.
So
sure.
yeah,
Jonathan Herring just keeps saying I want free shit. Jonathan, buy some raffle tickets, and you can get free shit.
That's right. And I know some of the tables.
I did like Jonathan's toes in his flip flops from Texas.
Oh yeah,
I like how someone said, "What do we got to do to see the whole foot?" I was like, "All right, this is not that type of page here, boys and girls."
Bourbon and BS podcast on OnlyFans.
That's right. Let's just
this
stick
is
with Patreon.
always.
Oh yeah, that's a big willet.
It's a 1.75. genie
I
bottle.
always like to.
Well, or it's just a regular size bottle with Nook's small hands.
Oh, come
No,
on.
it is the giant one. And
It's life size.
I have the Buffalo Trace version of that too
Oh yeah.
I love
in
that.
the bourbon closet.
The Eagle Rare is actually my favorite
Oh yeah.
because it
it's
just looks like a
ridiculous.
novelty bottle. And if you first crack that
It looks like a
1.75 of the
Hey.
Eagle Rare, I
I have
challenge
one.
everyone, one-handed by the neck, and see if you can pour steady a nice glass for you and anyone else with you. Because I tell you what,
You gotta
that
get
is
those delts.
that is
Or is it the wrist?
it's everything.
You know
Oh
what?
yeah.
Your abs
Have
are
you
into
tried
it.
to pour out of that bottle?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
same thing. I wouldn't
So
want to do it. I don't want to question the integrity of the Willet bottle, but I feel like if you get it at the neck at the top, it might just
It's
crack
a thing
off.
though. It's weird. Willet pot still is not selling what it used to. So second trip down to the party source in a month. So it was 4 weeks between each visit. Pot still is still there, still stacked up to the ceiling. All the rye went. Like
I get people coming in the store asking for that
Yeah.
bottle, but it
Which
doesn't
one?
drop that often in Ohio.
What, pot still?
Yeah. Any of the Willet stuff. It doesn't drop that often in Ohio. And as soon as it does, it's gone.
Hey, Nate, if you have any customer, like they sell it to me, dude, it's not a lot at all. I'll pick up bottles while I'm down there. Like I had to pick up a couple bottles of rye. I love
I'm
rye.
saying that when I say store, I'm referring to the wine and liquor store that I work at.
Yeah, in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I'm
if
not-
anybody needed any pot stilled because, dude,
Well,
that stuff for some reason, nobody's buying it.
They do here in Ohio. Ohio's the fourth largest bourbon market in the country.
Yeah.
But if you go from my travels last week before the car died, which I'm so happy didn't die in bumfuck Kentucky, but
You were in lovely Easton.
yeah. So yeah, but it's weird, travels 4 weeks apart, and yeah, man, like it's the first drop of Willet. It was pot stilled and rye side by side, massive displays. Come back 4 weeks later, it's only pot stilled that's left.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rye
But
goes quick.
but they didn't do the big bottles of pot stilled like I just showed you. They didn't do those on this past drop. They're only $86 now.
Yeah.
But
And before we start part 2, I do want to say that last week after the podcast on Thursday, Steve and myself had the pleasure of working with some folks at OHLQ.
Yeah.
And we actually got to partake in an OHLQ barrel pick process.
nice.
So
Dude,
we did 8 bourbons, 8 ryes, and then they gave some special bottles to try as well.
Yeah.
And I think the state is picking 4 bourbons and 4 ryes.
correct.
7 of the 8 barrels that the state would be picking are ones that were in my top 8.
Oh, nice.
So
But of course,
I'm excited about that. But those are going
I
to be.
was looking at more from the business side of it.
No, I mean, but it was so cool to we sample the products, and then those of us that were in the room like talking back and forth about each of the products, and they very clearly told us like, don't just pick.
I noticed you didn't bring those over, the ones that you.
I thought we were going to save them for like right before,
It's fine.
because those are going to be coming into Ohio within, I think, the next 2 months.
Yeah, and we're gonna get. So I have the contact of the company. Are we allowed to say? Well, anyways, we're
I
gonna
think we can.
we're gonna get him on the show, probably remotely because he is all over the country, but probably remotely. See, maybe even get Ann on that show. We can even talk about some of that stuff. All I'll say, and then we need to roll into part 2 here, is that we did it. It was a 3:00 meeting, and Nate had to go back to work afterwards. I did not. It was all the way on the west side of town, so it was far for me, right?
Yeah.
And you spit out a bunch because now you're getting used to the tastings, right? You were the only person in the room spitting the bucket. Everyone else was just sipping on it.
I noticed.
And I didn't drink the whole glass of all of it.
Oh,
I
I know.
Noticed,
I know.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
I was not. I got to tell you, like, I mean, the whole room was getting loose by the end of it, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like at first, the first four,
Well-
Nook is, this is funny. The first four that we tried, right? These are they were the
Bourbons.
6-year bourbons.
Yeah, they were all
And
6-year bourbons.
you know, it's like, hey, what do you guys think? So we're all like, all right, so I get like these notes and all that stuff. The second 4 were the 8 years, and everything is barrel strength, mind you.
Yes.
And so the second 4, you know, already I'm like, I'm trying to write down the notes, and like my palate's already shocked, right? Like, so I'm just like, well, you know, and then I start just kind of talking in kind of general. And even like around the table, like even Ann was starting to like they had notes, but like the one lady next to me,
Oh, yeah.
she had a flavor wheel pulled up on her phone.
Oh, did she?
That's,
okay.
I mean, and I love that because like she had some good notes. The funny thing is that originally the email said, "All right, you're going to do 8 from this company and like 3 or 5 from another company that
Yes.
wasn't there." The guy pulls out the 4. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then another 4. I'm like, all right. You know, I'm sipping them. I finished like 1 out of the 4 or whatever, and I poured them in. I hated doing that. And then he's like, all right, now we're going to do the ryes. And it's like, okay, how many ryes do you have? Well, we're going to do 8 of those too. I'm like,
You should have been spitting.
okay. And at this point, mind you, and this is just a story for the intermission, so this is just for the video guys and girls out there.
Yeah.
But like, it's so like the first he had to measure out. These are like half-ounce pours, right? You know, so like no big deal. But again, if you drink half ounce of these 4 and then another 4, like now all of a sudden these are adding up. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, mind you. But instead, it was like just pass the bottles around and don't look at them and pour your own. So I'm like doing as light of pours as I can. And I hear Nate next to me on my right. He's like, "Oop," and I do the same thing on one. I'm like, "Oh," because like this bottle comes out. I'm like, that's way more than a half ounce. So then it's like, here's 4 more ryes. Here's another 4 ryes. And I'm like, that's 16.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of whiskey. And then at the end, he's like, well, if anyone was interested, and we're all basically done at this point. We got to the last 4 ryes, and we're like, what do you think? We should do what? Like, no one had notes really on anything. Like, everything's just like, and he's like, well, I got these 2 agaves, and I got these 2 rums as well. Also all barrel strength. And I'm just like,
the agaves were 7 and 8 months age, and the rums were 7 and 8 years.
So this was all within 2 hours, mind you.
But those rums were like 133 proof.
And everything was delicious.
No, it was 3 hours. We got done around 6.
I know, but it was so. But I mean, okay, so 2 to 3 hours, middle of the afternoon, and then they're like, and Ann, you know, of course, like, well, maybe you guys should take some of this stuff to when we pick them, you'll have some, which was super generous. And Nate's like grabbing, like, well, I'll grab these 3, and then like they put the other ones for like the podcast, whatever. And they hand us boxes. I'm like, Nate, why don't you just package them all up? Because like at that point, like I wasn't drunk yet, but I was definitely tipsy. And like I got to drive back to 25 minutes. I got in my car and lit up a cigar.
That's how long it took me to get to work.
Yeah, I lit up a cigar and just cruised home. And I was like halfway home. I'm like, I can't wait to be back in my house. Like, this is not good.
Yeah.
You know, so I get here, I order a pizza, and like I was ready for bed like 8:30. It's like
no, I had to go back to work, and I worked the rest of the night till close.
No way, man.
That's
great experience. We'll talk about it when we get I know when we get that the gentleman on, and hopefully we'll get Ann from OHOQ on as well. And then we do need to roll into it, but go ahead, Nick.
Real quick before we go back. There was 2 I wanted to show you. I've told you guys about this for a while. It was a recommendation from Blend in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Shitty store. Well, not shitty store. I can't say that. Never share this.
I mean, you're live right now, but yeah, go ahead.
Nice. All right, whatever. I like some of their tactics. Great account. But their manager, Rocky.
Yeah, Dad's hat. I remember you talking about
it. Oh, yeah.
Won all these awards, man. Like, this rye is amazing. Love that. And then also, this is from Detroit. I've met the owner. Hangs out at a shop. My camera here. Tenacity. Made in Detroit.
Yeah. Tenacity Craft. What's it say?
Tenacity Craft. Tastemakers, but you know what? They make really good. This was one of their like prototype launch bottles.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's 113 proof.
Damn. You got a hell of a collection. All right.
So just weird stuff, but I put the light on outside, put the vest on. I am
You're gonna go out?
I'm gonna go outside.
All right, set up quickly and we'll go into part 2.
Okay.
Tony's going nuts in there. Tim Dodge, I know you're out there. You're welcome over here, but again, I'm going to try to limit the after time of the podcast this week because it's going to be a long week and a long Saturday. So I'm not discouraging you from swinging by, but if you do want to swing by, just don't necessarily, get too comfortable for a late night in the garage. I feel bad for Tony. He's in there barking like crazy.
I'm not there getting comfortable on your couch or anything.
Yeah, Nook's like, well, if I come, I might be staying on your couch again. I was like, well, all right.
There is a spare bedroom now.
I was prepared to also be like, so we're not going to do the 3:30 thing again. I gotta keep my wits about me this week. And on Friday, Jonathan Harrington was coming in. He wants to hang out. For all those people coming in, it will not be a repeat of last year when we had the high school reunion up
until
at the fucking
10:30.
Tinderbox. 10:30. Then it was out front. I mean, like, yeah, no, not doing it. I'd love to see you all on Friday night, but it was a little much for me.
Wait, when's Jonathan getting in?
He's flying in Friday. He's going to be up at the Easton area on Friday night. So,
all right, I will see him then.
I'm sure you guys can hold it down. I will. Jonathan Aaron, boo. Maybe have a drink. It is Paddy's Day, so we're going to get as much as we can done on Friday after the night crew comes in, and then I might go out to the tent and have a couple drinks, but not going to be the Sean Anderson. Love you. Haven't seen you on here in a while, but Sean Anderson bringing 6 bottles of booze to the shop starting at 10:30 a.m.
Oh, no, he didn't crack the first one until 12:30.
Okay.
Is that what happened last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Brian and Steve were going to leave early, and then all you guys showed up.
And I was going to come back and start setting up some of the tent, and then all you assholes came in.
Yep.
It was a great
Well,
time.
no, it was
there's Sean Anderson.
Event.
There's Sean Anderson right there. Sean, I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It was a fucking epic weekend, but that's a little much.
And now Kristen's getting in the convo.
Perfect. She says nope. She'll be in the tent, though, for all you guys. I'll point you in her direction. You can go have her having some fun out there. Jonathan Harry, no repeat of last year. God bless her. Well, let's get into part 2 here before we start talking about this.
There
we
go.
All right, Nook, you ready?
Yep.
Enough? All right, quick silence here. We'll get into part 2, which is leading perfectly into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 262, part 2, Beyond the BS. We got Nook from CLE Cigars and Asylum Cigars. He was on recently with Tom Lazuka, and Nook will be at the tent event at the Tinderbox East. And I'm going to mute you there, Nook, while you set up out there.
He's setting up outside so that way he can smoke a cigar.
Yeah,
on his balcony.
Yeah, because he's not here. Are you ready? I was going to mute you. All right, cool. But yeah, we've got Nook on from CLE. And he was supposed to be here today in the garage. But again, he's going to be traveling down to the area tomorrow. And we're looking forward to having him for the 10 event. We're going to get into it. If you're listening to the audio we had on the intermission, it was starting just naturally leading up to my topic, which is always fun. But we appreciate all the sponsors. We appreciate Nook and CLE and Asylum, their support of the 10 event and everything else. But Nook, thanks for being here. Love having you on the show. What are you smoking there?
An Azabache.
Azabache, which you can get at the CLE table at the 10 event. But I do want to thank Tinderbox at Easton for the sponsorship. Big Smoking 10 event is sold out this Saturday, March 18th. They got a big Paddy's Day party at the pub next door, Fido Irish Pub. That is not sold out. So if you are in the area for the 10 event, definitely check out the tent the day before on Friday. Going to have live music all day. It's going to be a great party. Weather is going to be a little rainy, but it is warmer during the day on Friday. And for those coming out to the Smoking 10 event, make sure you bundle up and wear some layers. Too late to get them this time around, but make sure you go to buyjack.com to grab some layers like t-shirts and sweatshirts, 3/4 sleeves, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Altadis USA, thank you very much. Nate already lit up. I'm going to be lighting up the Romeo y Julieta, Connecticut, Nicaragua, made by Plasencia, who will also be Altadis and Plasencia will be at the 10 event. Great party. And then also the BS Cigar Company as well for sponsoring the show. The gold and silver will be available. Might find those sprinkled in some sampler packs that are
all right.
Vendor appropriate as well, just to keep an eye out for those as well. All right, the topic tonight for Beyond the BS, we do things a little differently here. So we do the part 1 for the Bourbon and BS podcast where we talk about the bourbon, we talk about the cigar, and we talk about those types of things. And then we do a topic, if you will, for part 2. It's Paddy's Day again is the topic. We happen to be rolling right into that conversation a little bit, but I had it in the description for this is trying to keep it a little lighter this week because it is a big week for us. But do you celebrate, quote, drinking holidays each year? Why or why not? And we're coming up on our annual Smoking 10 event, which I was just talking about, which is always a big party that many of our listeners have been to before. Sometimes we may have to force ourselves to take life a little less seriously and take a step back and enjoy ourselves. So that's kind of the framework of what we're talking about. We were just talking about last year. It was the first event, Smoking 10 event, and Paddy's Day weekend that really had kicked off since COVID years, right? Yeah. So this was 2022. So you figure
3 years since 2019.
2019 was big when we did, Nook was talking about the patio party, if you will, 2020 when everything shut down. 2021, we did not have anything. Because all the restrictions were kind of still in place for a lot of that stuff. And then 2022, and mind you, for those that are part of the Bourbon and BS community page, I started that community page in 2019 of October of that year. So right before 2020 got shut down, then you had that gap. I mean, it was like the first event for most people at that point, including some of the reps as well. So yeah. So yes, drinking holidays, if you will, Paddy's Day. It was a good weekend. And a lot of the comments were coming through that, I was explaining that, Paddy's Day was on Thursday. It was gorgeous. We had things pretty knocked out for the Saturday event. So, I worked during the day and then I hit up, the tent for a little while. People were getting sunburned. And then Friday came and we had people in town from the community, the Bourbon and BS community, from the cigar community. People were all rolling into town, rep wise and everything like that. And it was like Friday by the evening, it was just one person after the other would roll into the shop, or like a rep was like, oh, so-and-so's in town. We'll get them over here and all this stuff. And so it was like a reunion. I said, it was like a high school reunion. All of a sudden, like a lot of the reps hadn't seen each other much, since the last couple of years. And it was just a great time. Might have gotten out of hand a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And it made Saturday a very, very long day for most of us, but it was a great time. And so, yeah, I'm not planning on it for those that are commenting. I'm not going to hit it as hard with you guys, but I encourage all of you guys to be safe, but have a great time this weekend. And I guess that's what I want to talk about is, for the listeners that are live and for you, Nook and Nate and Sean in the garage. But I mean, it's like, Ray was saying earlier, is like no other country has drinking holidays other than you guys. I don't believe that's entirely true. I mean, they do. But I think that Americans, the U.S., definitely take other people's holidays like
Cinco de Mayo,
St. Patrick's Day. I mean, it's like they turn into drinking holidays for sure. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. What do you guys think?
If I could chime in, I have a perfect example of it is a drinking holiday.
What, Paddy's Day?
No, it's actually St. Patrick's Day. Like we do that here in Detroit, but there's another one that is near and dear to all of us here in Metro Detroit is Tiger's opening day.
Okay.
So that is an unofficial holiday here in Detroit. Tom and I have celebrated that many, many times. I did it last year. probably going to do it this year too, because they open up with the Boston Red Sox, but all of Detroit shuts down. The bars, everybody opens up. It is one big party. And most companies here in Detroit, they're like, all right, you're going to opening day? Good. And I've brought customers over the years. Tom and I brought customers from Ohio, Pittsburgh, and they're like, dude, this is nothing like opening day for the Pirates. Like, this does not happen whatsoever. Right. And so in turn, the following year, my customer brought me to Pirates opening day that happened to be with Detroit. He's like, dude, I told you, nobody comes to this. In Detroit, you guys were filling the streets. Every bar was packed, and you guys went crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel that's spot on with what we're talking about tonight.
I think, again, I mean, I love having Ray on here, especially for this type of thing. He says, what do you say? That's because you have nothing of your own to celebrate. I mean,
we do have July 4th.
I got I usually have a great time on 4th of July, Independence Day, for sure.
Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Yeah, we've got some.
Yeah,
we've got some. We're a little younger as a country, all right. So yeah, maybe we don't have as much history, but we bring some. I mean, we don't really big melting pot as well, though.
We don't really drink on Arbor Day.
Some people probably do.
But that's what I was trying to say. It's like inadvertent holidays, like they give you time off to go out and go drink. So
yeah. And so, like, some people are saying, like, the amateur nights, like New Year's, Paddy's Day. I agree. Paddy's Day for me, especially in my previous career before I had to, like, work this event and everything like that to coincide with that, I would try to take Paddy's Day and the day after off from work because we had a much better time getting out there early and, drinking, hanging out before all the crowds got there on Paddy's Day. And then we were basically done around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, evening. And that's when we consider, like, all the amateurs coming in, like they're just going to get hammered and it's going to get crowded. Not as much fun for me.
Yeah. I only did that during college when, like, I went to the University of Michigan. Eastern Michigan was right down the street. One of our favorite bars, the Wooden Nickel, they opened at 6 a.m., started off with 5-cent beers, then worked their way up. So I was usually done by about noon. Then you rally up and go at it after that.
You're much younger then. I mean, again, we have different, types of, I think it gets harder as you get older. A lot of these things too, it's funny, to Ray's point too about, like we don't have the holidays. Paddy's Day, it's turned into a drinking holiday. Cinco de Mayo again is one, but people are bringing up like college football Saturdays. You know what I mean? For me, it's like it's like you have Sunday fun day, right? You know what I mean? These are the things that I get it. Some people that are really driven and they don't do that, right? They don't spend the money on going out to drink at a tailgate, college football, or if you're in a pro football team town. That's kind of the equivalent. Like you're talking about the Tigers opening day, like there's tailgaters at the Lions games. There's it's like, this is something that you rally behind sports. And I enjoy it. I know it's not for everyone, but I mean, I do still enjoy it. And I don't have any kids, and like, you try to do it the safe way most of the time, but it's like, I like a good Sunday fun day. You know what I mean? It's a fun time to hang out. I love NFL Sundays. I love doing that. When the NFL season's over, it's kind of like, what am I going to do with my Sundays? It's good that there's no NFL season like the spring and summer, because at least I can mow my lawn if it's a good Sunday. If there was a Bears game on, I'm not mowing my lawn today. No way.
Well, yeah, Steve, I agree with you. Like college football. So, like, my buddies and I, we have season tickets to the team that you guys hate down there. But Michigan. We're out Saturday.
It's broadcast elsewhere.
Yeah, but a lot of the guys over there, that's all they have. So it's like, this is their day to release, go crazy, is the tailgate before every Michigan home game. Yeah. So that's like a holiday holiday for them too.
I think it's fun. I mean, again, it's. What do you think, Nate?
With just
All of
drinking
this.
holidays
All of this.
or college football set. I mean,
Those are drinking holidays to some people, as we're finding out.
Oh, Tom Lazuka commented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he's
says,
been
so
watching.
Tom Lazuka, Asylum Cigars, obviously a sister company of CLE. He was on the show recently. Love Tom. He's been at the 10 event before. He says he's going to miss the 10 event. He has to be in Deadwood, which is stay tuned for more details on that. But he'll be at the tent in spirit. And I love the video. I love the video that Christian and Tom put sent me, thanks to you hooking it up. But when I asked for a little bit of a promo video from Christian, of course he's sitting there waiting and at the Asylum jet, and Tom's getting patted down and saying he's not going to be able to make it because he's going to be down in Honduras for 5 to 10 possibly. It's a great video. But yeah, Nate, what do you think? I mean, you're not a big. I mean, obviously you drink. Obviously you like enjoying whiskeys and more, but
I've never been a drinking holiday kind of person.
Yeah, that's why I was interested to see what your take on this
the last time I went out somewhere on St. Patrick's Day, I want to say was at least 10 years ago when I was at Battelle, and it just so happened that Paddy's Day was one of my days off, and I went to a Tilted Kilt because QFM 96 was going to be there.
Gross.
Were you married at the time?
Yes. If it was within the last 12 years, yes.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think I was. I think my wife was working that day.
Nate, was it Tilted Kilt Polaris?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one we had. That's the only one we had.
Yeah,
I love what Tom says.
I got
the Bourbon and BS podcast is a drinking holiday for some people. I love that.
Yeah, the two of us. But yeah, so I went to the Tilted Kilt. I think I had 2 beers and then I was out of there. I've never been one for going out to huge drinking parties.
Yeah.
Like you talk about drinking holidays. Another one we talk about is New Year's Eve.
Sure.
And New Year's Eve, which is my birthday, my wife and I go to dinner for my birthday, and our reservations are usually around 6:30 because I'm either hanging out at the cigar shop or I'm working at the cigar shop, and the shop will close at 6 on New Year's Eve. So then I just walk across the street to the restaurant that we always go to for my birthday. And then like this year we were home and it was still like 10 minutes to go in the first quarter of the OSU Georgia game.
Now, so let me ask you this,
which kicked off at 8.
So you're not big on that, but do you typically now after you got home, do you go home, you and Jess, and do you start enjoying more whiskey? Do you drink that night? Do you just
I'll drink when I get home.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll drink when I get home. I do I don't go out to bars. I don't.
Yeah,
you're
not a big bar person. That's why I was interested to see where this conversation would go with this.
There are times where if some friends or whatever are getting together and it's at a place, and I'm going to be in that area, sure, I'll go over there. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends live on this side of town, and I live on the other side of town.
I was going to say it's more unfortunate that you live on the other side.
Which is a good excuse for me to not drive all the way across town to go drink and then drive all the way back.
But another holiday though that you kind of and it is a holiday in the U.S. in my opinion for a lot of people, is the Super Bowl. Well, yeah, it's not a holiday, but I mean it is more or less a holiday.
Well, so I showed up at I showed up at your garage for the Super Bowl party. I brought a bottle of whiskey, and I had every intention on, hanging out here during the game. And
Jess driving you home.
And Jess was going to drive home. Unfortunately, other issues came up, and we had to leave 5 minutes after we got here.
Kristen says, ask me about my New Year's Eve.
Oh,
and Nate's wife says he never goes to bars. I'm just going to let you know that right now.
Nate's wife?
Your white hat. Come on, bro.
Yeah. So a lot of times she won't comment on the live feed. She'll just text me her responses, but I guarantee you, she'll probably tell you that I don't go out to bars. Now last year, on Friday, which was the day after Paddy's Day, but the day before the Smoking 10 event, I did have the day off. I showed up to the Tinderbox at Easton at about noon. Sean Anderson was there waiting, and he already had some bottles with him. And yeah, my wife just confirmed I don't go to bars. But at
Jeff,
12,
you can comment on the feed.
But Sean waited until after I got there, and it was 12:30 before he cracked the first bottle. But he definitely shared with everybody that wanted some. He was gracious enough to bring gifts, both for Steve and myself.
Which I then gave back to him one of the other.
Which then that night you cracked the bottle. And
no, I give back to him because he ran out of his bottles, and I said, "Well, here's a bottle that you just gave me, so
Yeah,
have at it."
He ran out of his 6, so Steve gave back, and there was the 7th. But no, I've never been much like, even when I was younger, even when I was an adult, and I would go to my dad's for his Christmas party every year. I still wasn't a big drinker. I might have a couple beers, maybe a shot of whatever they were drinking, but I wasn't doing like the vodka and Red Bulls or the Jaeger bombs or anything like that, because I would just watch my family get out of control.
Okay, so
and it was embarrassing.
Hey, they're in.
They're what? You broke up.
No, it's not.
What was that?
No, it's okay. I did want to say something, but in terms of Super Bowl, I think 90% of people they're doing all the stuff in-house. Everything's going. I drove past, like I had to pick up something this year, but like going out and looking at bars, it looks like most people are doing stuff in-house now.
I think, yeah, and I think as you get older, a lot of times that happens, but especially after the COVID years, I mean, it was different. Some people wanted to get out. I like to host a Super Bowl party at my place. I've got the big screen, like the projector out in the garage, and we have people inside. It's not the biggest house, but invite the neighbors over, some of the, like Nate and some other friends, Sean and all that. And we have a good time. And, it's fun because, yeah, everyone brings stuff to drink. I have stuff to drink. Last year was right shortly after that Kristen and I started dating, and she had a mimosa bar at my place for the Super Bowl, which is not always common at the Super Bowl, but it was
not also common at Steve Crane's house.
It is now.
It is now.
It's
it wasn't
well
before.
received. But I like that. I want to bring this up though, because again, I think this is kind of part of it, right? Where is this at? So Ray says here, here's a twist. Enjoying those drinking events is not an age-related thing. It's a mental state or maturity thing. I think so. I'm of the opinion with that one. I'll leave that up on the screen here. It can be perceived that way. I think that a lot of people that don't enjoy those or go out and do it, they might have done it at a younger age, whether it be age or maturity, as he calls it. But also, I think that people, they get settled into what they like to do, right? So they don't necessarily need to go out and party and do all that stuff. But like, I look at like Ray, for example. I mean, if you're on the Bourbon and BS community page, he shares a lot. They're out a lot, smoking cigars, having drinks on patios, going out and doing that stuff on a regular basis. Now, they may not be the big event drinkers or partiers, but they've incorporated that into their lifestyle, and they love that, is what I perceive. For me, and I saw Jonathan Herring posted a comment here. I think if you have kids, if you have responsibilities, certain I think you handle them differently. So there's the maturity side of things. Like you maybe drive more often when you shouldn't drive. You try to be smarter about it. But I know plenty of, like, in my opinion, mature and successful people that they enjoy that part. It's like an escape for them sometimes. They look forward to that. They look forward to a Sunday fun day and, mimosas and brunch. I'm not singling out Kristen, but it was like, they like doing that. They like, going to the Super Bowl party and drinking. They like going out for New Year's Eve and just having a blast and just tying one on, because everyday life just brings, like, it builds up on some people, and they look at it as an escape. And hopefully the maturity side of it is that they handle it responsibly, whether they maybe don't drink until they get drunk. Like someone was talking about it today. I'm not going to say who, but it's like, well, Paddy's Day, it's like, well, as you get older, I mean, I think if you start feeling a buzz after 2 drinks, you should probably taper off. And it's like, yeah, probably. But I also know plenty of people that most of the time, he says it's a flaw in their personalities. I think that's an opinion. I think as long as you're safe and you have a good mind about you, and that's what you enjoy doing, you can do it, you can balance your other responsibilities in life. If you consider it a flaw, not aimed towards Ray, but I look at it as like, that's your opinion, and that's fine. Don't do it. Absolutely. And also don't throw the first stone if you have been drunk before and made bad decisions, or you partied before and now you're like, well, I don't do that anymore. It's like, that cool. You don't do it anymore. That's fine. But don't necessarily judge. I don't think you have the I don't think you have the clout to judge people that do it if they do it responsibly. If they're doing it and then it's like, don't drive, and they just continue to do it and they make bad mistakes and they're just, they're reckless with their lives, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Nook.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I have a couple of my true best, my fraternity brothers that, Michigan and some other Tigers opening. That's all they have, the escape to go out and do stuff, and they have highfalutin jobs and this and that. But you know what? They play safe. They have drivers, everything. So, but it is like, because we will all meet up and do stuff. It's like you said before, it's meeting up, catching up on old times, and it just being responsible for, what you're going to do that day. And it's never going to end at 2. Anybody that ever says that, I watch live PD every week.
Oh, we had some good ones with that.
Yeah. Don't believe it's just 2. But
no,
yeah, everybody.
I think for a lot of people,
responsible now because, dude, you have Uber, you have everything else now. So yeah,
I agree, and I think more of a personality flaw, if you will, is that and I've been that person before. I try not to be, but it is that when people sometimes they get drunk and they have all the intention of like Ubering and everything else, but they didn't necessarily plan to not give themselves an out, and they didn't Uber there. So now it's like you're not in the right state of mind. You're like, no, I'm fine. I mean,
we've seen that here.
Yeah, and I've been there before, but I look at what's that?
I said I've been there. Listen,
yeah.
I'm not. I have a DUI underneath my belt. So, yeah. But that was before the whole Uber craze and all that. But you know what? I made it.
You want to learn from it. So, I mean, I look at this. I'm trying to look at some of the comments here as well, but I enjoy doing some of those holidays or those types of things. I don't necessarily see it as a negative, and some people do. And I think that you can respect some of that. Like you were saying, some of your buddies, they try to be responsible and do it. They look forward to it. For example, right? So in the same vein, in my opinion, Kristen and I, and then Spencer's been on the podcast, and his fiance, we're going on an all-inclusive down to Mexico at the end of April. That to me is like the ultimate drinking holiday. If you go to these all-inclusives, yes, the food's included, but if you don't drink, not really worth it. You know what I mean? In my opinion. So it's like to go down there. I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily like a 6 or 7 day, just like we're hammered the entire day, but people might have their day and they get too drunk because they're out in the sun. They're just drinking all day. They're having fun and all that stuff. And it gets the best of them and they're tired. But there's also the ability to be able to enjoy. That's the negative stigma, is that you don't necessarily on a Paddy's Day or a drinking holiday, you don't necessarily have to just get hammered every time.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy the party. You can enjoy the holiday going back to Ray, you have the whole thing of like, they call vacations a holiday, right? So it's like you have that. So it's like taking an all week, all inclusive trip. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you have everything. You don't have to think about it. Do you want another drink? Sure, I'll have another drink. You know what I mean? Do you want some more food? Yeah, I'll have some more food. Do you want to just like go do this? It's I like that mentality. And sometimes I feel like even on some of these holidays, like a Super Bowl or Paddy's Day or New Year's Eve, you're doing it because you want to just, you're not necessarily, it's weird. I don't think you're necessarily celebrating the holiday as much as you are just celebrating who you're with, and hopefully you have some friends there or a significant other, but you're able to just like, this gives you a moment to have fun.
So a couple things that stick out to me. So anyone who knows me knows I didn't start drinking until after I graduated college. And when I was in high school, my senior year, I actually wrote an essay for a scholarship, and my essay was about why I didn't plan on drinking, because at that point,
Cheers.
yeah, cheers, yeah, cheers to that one.
Out of stick.
What
was?
But
how'd the paper end?
But the reason was, at that time in my life, I'd had a lot of family members that had done some really stupid shit while they were drunk, and it, some of them it cost them relationships, some of them it cost them jobs.
Yeah.
My parents used to be real heavy drinkers, and that kind of led to them getting divorced. So I had seen a lot of bad examples, and so that was one of the reasons why I didn't ever plan on drinking, but I at least waited till college, because I wasn't going to college to major in beer pong, as I used to tell people. But
it's a lucrative profession.
When I would go to my dad's for Christmas, like I always loved going to my dad's for his Christmas party, just because playing games and hanging out with family and stuff like that. But they would always drink and just get absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And I actually it was my stepsister had called me out for not drinking, but I smoked cigars, and she couldn't understand why I did one but not the other. And it was so bad with my family there that most years they would actually pretend like, hey, it's bedtime, it's 2:00 in the morning, let's call it a night. And I'm like, awesome, great, I'm going to bed. And then they would all go back out to the garage or downstairs and keep drinking. Like they would intentionally lie about it being the end of the night just so I would go away. And it also happened at my sister's Halloween party one year. She invited me to the Halloween party, and I brought a bunch of lights that I had and stuff like I had some black lights, some laser lights and stuff like that. And
I was like, do you have one of those like rotating, like ones that like had different colors all over?
No, I had a police light though, the rotating red. I had that and a laser light that moved to music.
Nice.
I had some black lights. Yeah.
You still have those?
I think I do. Yeah, in the basement. Hold on. So literally my sister had invited me to this party, and I'd had a couple beers. Because my sister knew the party was going to probably get out of hand, my sister called my mom and told my mom to call me to tell me to go home.
Wow, this is unfolding.
My sister didn't even say my sister didn't even come up to me and say, "Hey, this is a bunch of our friends and stuff. Like, we're gonna have a party. You need to go home." No, she called my mom to tell me to go home.
It's a lot of communication issues right there.
Yeah, needless to say, that pissed me off for a very long time.
I think it's still happening. I think you're still rubbed the wrong way.
No, I hadn't thought about that until Jess texted me and reminded me of that.
See, Jess, you need to be on the comment feed here. Go ahead, Nook.
Yeah, because that was the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I love it. I think that drinking can get out of hand. Obviously, I've been there many times. And you have that anxiety, right? Some people do. I've had it for sure. The anxiety where you wake up and you may not remember everything, or you like, what did I say? What did I do? that is something that I've struggled with, and I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast as well have struggled with, and I think that's really where you do want to continue to try to be better. Not everyone's perfect, so when you celebrate some of these drinking holidays or whatever, like Paddy's Day, you go into it, you might have the best intentions, but that is something that hopefully you can get better at, as far as that goes, even on these podcast nights, it's like I've had myself, Nook, we were talking about, it's like you want to be safe with it and you want to be smart with it. But yeah, sometimes the drinking or the partying. What's that?
I said, we've always been safe, my friend.
We've been safe. It's just, again, like sometimes you're like, well, I didn't need to drink that much. I didn't need to stay up that late. I didn't need to do all that stuff. And it's like, as long as it's not, to your point, Nate, it's not sacrificing relationships or jobs or, that type of thing, you want to get better at that part of it. If it does impact your health, your mental health, your relationships, your career and all that stuff. Yes, those are the things you need to do it. That's one of the reasons I like things like Paddy's Day. I like things like New Year's Eve. You almost like plan for that. Like I said earlier, it's like an escape, if you will, or like it's like a vacation to be able to be like, hey, I'm going to get together with my friends and do all this stuff on St. Patrick's Day. And I'm not going to work the next day. This, for a lot of people, like, this year, Paddy's Day is a Friday, so a lot of people don't work on Saturday. I work open to close on Saturday. We have our big event. But it's like they look at that and it's like, hey, we're going to Uber up there. We're going to have fun. Let's use the fucking buddy system, whatever you need to do so that no one is just off on their own. And you're like, what happened to them last night? You don't want to be unsafe with it, but you want to. Some people like that. And then the next day, yeah, they're going to be hungover. They're going to be, but hopefully they're like, man, I needed that, but it's like I really had a great time because I don't necessarily get to do that all the time. I know some friends that don't drink. They work Monday through Friday. They don't drink during the week. And then on the weekends, they drink on Friday night. They have fun. They go out on Saturdays. They, Sundays, they'll drink to a point. And then it's like, all right, now I got to get back to my Monday through Friday mode. And I got to get to that point. And I think if you can manage it, I think I think it's fine. But I know that's also not everyone thinks like that.
I'm going to chime in. Like, I think it's fun. Like, now that you guys have preoccupied my St. Patrick's Day for the last, almost 10 years now.
Sorry.
I love people watching. I love doing what they do. It is a holiday, and it's an excuse. At the end of the day, it's an excuse for everybody to just get hammered. It has nothing to do with St. Patrick or anybody else. But you know what, man? It's fun. And,
if you have fun with it.
Yes. But, in all the other times too, it's all the holidays. If you use it responsibly, oh man, it's fun.
Well, go ahead.
Sometimes the one story I'll tell people is when Jess and I were living at our apartment in Grandview. It was the first year that we hosted Easter dinner, and it was for her family. And I thought there was going to be, like a certain number of people there, and then more people than I thought were going to be there showed up. And then also there was a dog, which I was not expecting. And so I was drinking a Jackie O's Dark Imperial Stout, and it was like 10-11% alcohol or whatever. And all of a sudden I see them walk in with that dog, and I love that dog. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't want it in my apartment. And I remember
I said I like those Jackie O's.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I literally saw this and I was like, all right. I put the bottle of beer back in the fridge. I went to my office. I cracked a bottle of tequila and just started pouring a glass. And I walked out, and Jess goes, "What? I thought you were drinking a beer." And I was like, "Yep. Easter." And I said, "Easter just turned into Cinco de Mayo."
Some years.
You know what, Nate? I like.
You what? You broke up there.
I said I like your tactics.
Yes, absolutely. 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 I hope we didn't. Oh, there he is. There he is. Going back to this again, Ray, this is where it really comes to I think to fruition here is that why do you need an excuse to be hammered? Again, personality flaw. All about the judging on the personality flaws. I take that comment as why do you need an excuse to be hammered? Personality flaw is that Ray can just get hammered whenever.
Yeah,
But he also is retired. I'll give him that. Is that he is a very full life and successful life and love Ray. And well, some of us do have jobs, and so we have to plan around that. You know, we're not all retired and able to just do that yet. So hopefully that's goals for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
We can't all just go to a bar every day, smoke not really nice cigars, and drink single malt scotches all day.
And also, not he just gives a laughing emoji. We're also, in this on the show right now, we got Nook, who's a regional, sales manager of CLE Cigars. So he's doing these things where it's he's.
And Steve, I think like Tom's still watching too, because Tom's been chiming in.
Yeah.
So we got Lazuka, the owner of Asylum. He's in here watching too. So.
Yeah, and we got the Bourbon BS podcast is just something that when I switched careers to the cigar side of things, and Nate now is full blown into he was cigars at one point. He was also working his day job for the last 8 years, and that was obviously more of a corporate gig. And now he has transitioned to they drink and sample stuff at work. I mean, it's not like they get hammered and stuff at work, but it's like you can incorporate a lot of this stuff into your everyday lifestyle. I mean, Ray, love you, like that you're retired and you can do it whenever. I'm not saying you get hammered every day, but, and Jonathan Aaron, hashtag Team Nate.
That's the second time he said that, but he also said not hashtag Team Nate earlier.
I'm just saying, we on this podcast, it's a Wednesday night and we're in the garage until, there are people that are in bed at this point. And we drink and smoke. What's that?
Is it an anniversary yet of the first time that Jonathan came up at the 10 event? I remember that day.
So we did actually. They were chiming in about that with they were chiming in when I forget what Jonathan said. I should have brought it up. But he did say that, he started a train that he could not stay on that night with you and Tom and everyone else.
Oh, he said Tom drank him under the table.
I'm pretty sure that was 2018. And that was the year that the fire department came in and
yes, it was
shut it down. And that was the most.
Was that a comment tonight, Nate?
That was earlier. Yeah.
It was earlier.
Oh, okay. I can't see comment.
No, Jonathan Aaron says 2021 was my first. We didn't even do one in 2021.
Yeah.
2018, I think, was his first because that was the year that we had.
No, that was the fire marshal year. And
I know, but we all ended up on the patio.
Yeah. And Mr.
That was
Johnson
that year.
Was talking to Mr. Jared and I. And he's like, all right, man, I want to use the restroom one more time. I'll come back out here and you can get me an Uber. So, Jonathan disappeared.
No. He does say, you're right. Fire department was my first. I hate that we have to call it that. The fire department was my first. But so I look at that, right? So as someone that takes a part of hosting a party like this, right? We're not at St. Patrick's Day, but it is that weekend. The Smoking 10 event, you look at it, it's like weddings, right? Same thing. A lot of people love weddings as like almost like a holiday for drinking, right? You know what I mean? You look at that, it's like if we were to, now granted, in Ohio, you can't necessarily have booze at your shop and love to have that. We love having Fido next door, so we have a patio that's smoker friendly. But if I put this a 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Smoking 10 event, and people are like, are there going to be drinks there? And it's like, nope, we're not going to have a bar. That would people would still come, but that's a different event. I'm not encouraging people to get hammered, but it's like, no, we want you to enjoy yourself. I'm a part of something called Safe Ride, right? So Safe Ride today, it was funny in the morning, kind of a side note here for you guys. every year, Safe Ride LLC here in Central Ohio, Safe Ride, and I'm a part of it. It's a charity, but we're not technically a charity because people can't, like, Guinness can't contribute to whatever, like the way we do it. But they do a press conference before St. Paddy's Day and some other holidays. This year it was at Fido next door. I was not able, I was working, but it's like the police come from different townships, different cities. They bring the Columbus DUI, basically the paddy wagon. So this morning at Easton, right outside our shop on the street, you have several sheriff cars, police cars, the paddy wagon, all that stuff. And they did a press conference for basically promoting safe driving. Be smart. If you're going to do this whole drinking holiday thing, be smart. And Safe Ride, which I'm a part of, we basically provide Lyft coupons or coupon codes that you can get a discount on using Lyft around those locations. Fido Irish Pub right next door to us, Burns Pub in Grandview. Pat Burns been on the podcast before with his Bua whiskey. And so we do that stuff. But you know what the response is from a lot of people? They walk in this morning, it's like, what's going on at Easton this morning? I see all the cop cars outside. And you immediately see cop cars. You're like, oh, something's going on. I'm like, well, no, they're doing a press conference, for the big weekend. They're trying to promote safe driving and being safe this weekend. They're like, oh, that's kind of cool. But the immediate response, and I was like, yeah, just watch. I'm going to look at my Nextdoor app. And all of a sudden it's like, well, shit's going down in Easton again on a fucking, whatever, Wednesday morning. There's cop cars everywhere. I'm sure there's a bunch of shit going on. It's like, this is a good thing.
Yes.
You can actually be somewhat smart about this. We're bringing the police in to speak, before this all goes down. When you look in the comments.
Oh no, when I mentioned that at work, I get to sample a bunch of wines. Like last Thursday, holy cow. Kristen would understand if I mentioned all the wines, she would know what they are.
All right.
But I sampled, I think 6 or 7 different wines from our first rep in the door. So in the first hour of the day, I sampled 6 or 7 wines, and they all ran from $40 to $140 a bottle.
Do you spit them out or you drink them?
Most of them I spit. Let's face it, because with what they're pouring, if I sat there and
I know, I'm just kidding.
But I also love what my wife said before I started the job. She goes, when you start this job, you'll have a reason to drink before noon, and it won't be negative.
It's positive.
Wait, what?
Well, I mean, I drink on a Sunday fun day, or like if you're, so one of those things on Paddy's Day, Larry Schumann, who's a friend of the show, and he does all the logos and stuff. He does the Bourbon and BS stuff, the BS stuff. Last year he bailed on me, but it was funny. Like on Friday, before I go into the shop, I'm meeting Larry on St. Patrick's Day. Not going to get hammered, but I'm going to have a beer with him at like 9 a.m. on St. Paddy's Day. Because you can do some of these things. Sunday fun days, you might drink before noon. You can do that to have fun. Hopefully, that's the idea. You don't necessarily drink before noon because it's always a negative.
No, but I mean, it's I tell people what I do, and I tell them I get to sample all these wines, and a lot of times my boss, because my main role at Carfagna's on Gemini up at Polaris is to be on the floor helping customers and selling wine, selling liquor, selling cigars. Like, that's why I'm there.
Sure.
But in order to do that, my boss knows that I need to be there to actually learn and understand stuff about these wines. So when these reps come in and they're wanting us, they're wanting to sample, their whole intention is they want my boss to sample the wines because he's the one that's ordering them. He's the one that's making that's his job. He's the one making the decision about what to carry, what to bring on, what to get rid of, and they're trying to sell new product. It's the same thing in the cigar industry. Every cigar rep goes into the shops because they want that shop to carry their product or carry more of their product.
It's a business.
It is. He wants me to learn a lot of the stories and history of some of the brands So that way,
Makes sense.
So that way, when customers come in, because I'll be honest, in the week since we did the blackened whiskey, I have told that story so many times.
Yeah,
at the store, I have sold so many bottles of that whiskey because I tell them that story.
You know the story, yeah, exactly.
And now I'm doing the same thing with the wines. I haven't had, unlike my boss, I have not had every wine that's on the shelf.
You will,
but
much like the cigar shop.
But I can sit there.
Dad's hat, nice.
If I can find a bottle in each category and tell them a story, I can get that customer intrigued enough to buy that product.
So that's a big thing too. Like going back to the topic with Paddy's Day, it's funny. We had Barry Chandler on here before, right?
Yeah.
The Irish whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
Great episode a long time ago.
Stories and sips.
But like Paddy's Day, it's funny, much like Cinco de Mayo. From the business side of things, it's such a big holiday for some of these like Irish companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guinness, Guinness is like it's huge. Jameson, Tullamore Dew, like they absolutely just go crazy in sales on this stuff, right? So it is marketed as such, and yeah, it's amateur hour sometimes. The fact that they're giving like Jameson in at the tent of like not our tent event, but at the Fido tent. They're doing Jameson shots out of like test tubes. And you talk to a guy like Barry Chandler that appreciates that, and like you to raise. Yeah, right there. I'm gonna mute you there, Nook.
Is he blowing his nose or is he blowing out his lighter? Okay.
But I mean, it's like Jameson and stuff. Like they sip on that. They don't shoot it.
Yeah.
But in America, we do. We do because sometimes that's I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah. I had a customer come in last night. It was one of the last customers I had, and he wanted to buy some different wines, and he told me the stuff that he likes, and then he starts asking for recommendations.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, what are you going to be like? Are you going to be drinking this by itself, or are you going to be having it with a meal?
Did you say by itself or yourself?
By itself.
I was going to say, you want to watch that line. That's a fine line when you're talking to a customer.
By itself.
You been drinking by yourself, or
no.
You're going to have company? No, it'll be a dark room, probably late at night, Go ahead.
No, and so the reason I'd asked them is because there are different wines that are better to drink with certain meals, wines to drink by itself.
Much like our part one with the whiskey and cigars.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And because of my experience doing the podcast and being in the cigar shop, I know to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And he's like, well,
and drink alone.
Pick me out a good everyday bottle and then pick me out a good special occasion bottle. I'm like, well, what do you like? He goes, no, don't ask me that question. I'm like, I have to ask you that question because if I only pick you something that I like, but you and I have different profiles of what we like,
yeah,
I'm going to pick you something that I absolutely love, and you're going to hate it. Possibly, and I was like, if you tell me that this is going to be a wine with a meal, I'm going to ask you what meal. Because my job is to try and find the best product for the situation, not just sell you a wine for the sake of selling you a wine.
Well, I think that's anything with sales, just to get to touch on that, and then steer it a little bit back towards this. Is that anytime you're doing sales, it's like there's that age-old thing with sales, right? Like sell me this pen, and I've brought it up before. More recently was when I was in sales training, going back 15 years ago, it was like, sell me this cell phone. You know what I mean? When someone walks into the store, right? If you walk into the AT&T store and you're like, yeah, I need to get a new cell phone. They're like, oh, this is the newest iPhone. This is the newest Samsung, what Galaxy. Like this thing blows it away. Or you can have the approach of like, well, what do you use yourself? Like, what do you use the phone for? Do you take a lot of pictures? Do you, do you go online a lot? Do you like, what do you like to do? Like, what do you use it for? They're like, well, I like to take pictures. I post them. I do Instagram. I like to send it to family. I like to do all that stuff. It's like, well, that's great. So like, with that being said, I've got this phone and it's got a great camera on it. This is what it does. It handles everything else, but like these pictures. Let's take a picture with the floor model. it's the same thing you're doing. Same thing we do in the cigar side of things. And all.
Yeah.
It's what do you like? What have you enjoyed? That's a sales mentality, making sure you don't just do that word vomit and you just like say, you got to buy this one. They're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because they could also say, I like texting and making phone calls. I don't need the camera. I don't need the internet. I don't need all that stuff.
Do you still have flip phones?
I mean, when I did the sales training,
Yes.
I mean, T9 texting was still an option, so it was a little different at the time. But Nook, with this whole thing about the drinking holidays and just taking it a step back, but including that is, I mean, we all know that that know you and you've been on the podcast. It's like we do enjoy drinking on this podcast and what we do. You mentioned, the Michigan games. You mentioned the Tigers opening day. You're a big fan of it. You also mentioned the fact that you got a DUI under your belt, but you try to learn the best you can from it. But what do you enjoy about the quote drinking holidays? Is it about the drinking, or is it about the getting out and enjoying that moment, that holiday? What are you thinking?
No, it's all about the moment. And yeah, the DUI, I kind of threw that out there, but it is what it is. Anyhow,
yeah, no, I mean, trust me, I have plenty of friends, and it could always be worse. And that's one of the reasons why I'm part of the Safe Ride program, is because we lost a friend to a drunk driver.
Probably,
so, I mean,
actually, anybody that knows me knows I have that. That was long. Actually, Michigan State game, 2003. So that's how long ago it was. Anyways, but it's all about like the ritual, like everything. Like I could tell you about the Tigers opening day, like being with like Tom and all those guys, like down in like downtown Detroit. Like we all get together. It's so many people. It's a ritual thing for downtown Detroit. It's not about the drinking. That does go on. And that's why a lot of companies will give you like a free pass on that day.
Yeah.
It doesn't count against your personal days or anything. It's like it's Tigers opening day. I can say that for certain in Detroit. That's how it works, man.
Yeah. I got a question on here from Ryan Jones, and I'll put it up there, and I'm going to share a little bit here about this, and I think it actually, kind of bleeds into what you were saying there. Ryan says, Steve, where were you when the Chicago Cubs won the World Series? Was that a drunk night for you? So I'll leave it up on the screen here. Ryan, that whole season was awesome for me. There's several points on this point. During the playoffs, there's a bar not too far from me called Turtle Creek Tavern, and I know the bar manager up there, and we've gone up there several times. Watched some NFL Sundays up there. Well, it was funny because like again, it does bleed into this whole topic of the holiday. For me, that was like talking about what Nook's talking about, the sporting events, right? Cubs, my whole life, 108 years between World Series champions, right?
We talked about this when I was there too.
Yeah.
How long you lived in Chicago? And I was
very long.
In Chicago.
I didn't live there very long, but my family did. My mom grew up in Chicago. My dad and her met in high school. So anyways, big Cubs fans in my family, myself included. That's just how it works, right? You're at a certain age, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm a Bears fan. I'm a Bulls fan, even though I don't watch basketball anymore. But Ryan, so that particular series, or basically the playoffs, I was watching some of the games up at Turtle Creek, and they were winning. And when I didn't watch Turtle Creek, they didn't win. So it got to the World Series, and I had people like Pat Adams, who's been on the podcast before, living in California, and he's commenting. He's like, please tell me you're going to Turtle Creek tonight to watch the game. Because it was like all of a sudden that became the good luck bar. Game 7, we had, because that was my good luck bar, we had 20 to 30 people deep, Cubs and Indians fans, and just like random friends that wanted to like watch Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had people in Indians gear, Cubs gear, some people that didn't care like about either team, but they just were like, what is happening? Because they came back from a 3-1, you know what I mean? It was just insane. That
so
night,
Steve,
Ryan,
your good luck charm won it for my family in Chicago.
Right. So I went, I drove there. We watched the game. We watched the game. Epic game, every part of baseball, extra innings, rain delay, all that stuff. If you watched it, I remember I was watching, the Cubs were up 6-3, and I'm sitting there and I'm like at the bar and I'm just like sitting there like this, you know what I mean? I'm like rubbing my hands. I'm just like kind of like this. And Ron, who was listening, Ron Jenkins, he was up there and he's like, what's wrong with you? Like, I mean, you guys are up by 3. It's like the 6th inning. Like, why are you so stressed out? After he asked that, they panned to some Cubs fans. And they're doing the same shit I'm doing. I'm like, this is why. Right after that, 6-6, tied game. I was like, that's fucking why I'm doing it, right? So, like, it was like super stressful. And so at the very end of it, the Cubs win. I call my dad, and I ordered. It was between $400 and $500 off of Fanatics.com. I ordered that much World Series champs gear. Ended up returning like $200 worth of it. You know what I mean? It's like all the hats. Like, all right, who needs shirts? So I'm going to order all this stuff, you know, all that. And then also some Indians fans who are regulars at the bar. So my buddy, who is the bar manager, Nick Ditto, he actually brought out a bottle of champagne.
Indians suck.
This is a strip mall bar, mind you. Brings out a bottle of champagne that these Indian fan regulars had kept bringing up. They had it at the bar, because they were like more regulars than I was at that bar, and they had it, and they literally told him, it's like, that Cubs fan guy out there that's been here for most of the series, give it to him, because we're not going to drink it now.
That's awesome.
And we had a great time.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
It was amazing. We're like literally taking pulls, like whoever was left, like we're taking pulls off the bottle of the champagne. The bad news was, Ryan, is that I did end up, unfortunately, driving home that night, and I got home safely, but I curbed the shit out of my car.
Oh.
Been there, done that before.
Didn't wreck my car. It was in the neighborhood. I actually just took the turn a little, and I got in the car the next morning. It was messed up. I lucked out, and that's what I want to say is, though, hang on. I want to say is that was a learning experience for me. I had it was all the highs and lows, and fortunately, it was not the lowest of lows, like you're talking about DUIs, or again, why I'm involved in Safe Ride. I got home safely. No one was hurt. Everyone got home safely. All my friends. We had the highs and lows. Obviously, it was a huge thing. I got to talk to my dad. He got to see the Cubs win the World Series. Unfortunately, he passed away about a year or so later. But it was one of those things that is a very permanent memory in my mind. And one of the things is that wasn't necessarily a drinking holiday, but it turned into a drinking night. And I look back and I should have just Ubered home or lifted home, or had someone take me home. And I drove home, and luckily I got home safely. But that is one of those things that there's a reason that I enjoy doing. Like people are like, you should do the podcast remotely.
We've talked about that, but it's like someone put us up in a hotel.
I would do it differently, and that's why, like, Nook has stayed on the couch. That's why Nate tapers his drinking off. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that I learned. No, there's things that I've learned from that, and I'm not always perfect, but that was an impactful night on so many levels, and it turned into one of those things that, like, these drinking holidays, like Paddy's Day. I want to be smart. Last year, it's like Sean Anderson was here. He drove me home that night, that we all were doing that drinking stuff, and he stayed at the house, because it's like, you surround yourself with good people, you try to make good decisions, but if you want to enjoy these holidays, whether it be a sports holiday or a Paddy's Day or a New Year's Eve, the big lesson
or
is
Bourbon and BS podcast. I trust you, Steve, and that's why I always sleep on your couch.
Or you get driven back to the hotel. I mean, we look after our own, and I think that this is something that if you want to enjoy yourself, if you want to have fun, and it involves alcohol, hopefully you learn from your mistakes.
You know what? Like, but after the saga ended, that's the thing, man. Like, that's why I've stayed there. Like, always had good times afterwards for everybody in the garage. And so,
no, I think in that's part of the fun is that we have fun on some of those holidays. You know, like Nate, who doesn't do the drinking holidays necessarily because it's not his thing. And I appreciate, Nate, you expressing some of the reasons why, you know, some of the holidays where your family did have some of the drinking stuff.
Oh gosh,
and it impacted you up to this day. I
love
the fact, though. I love the fact that on Wednesdays, you know, you come out, you do that. The Super Bowl, when I invite you to that, you know what I mean? Southie Movie Marathon, something stupid that a lot of people don't understand, but I do that. Those are drinking holidays for Nate Hale. He has a group. He doesn't want to go out to a bar, but he'll come over to the house. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's get in. Let's go."
Yeah.
And
you're my group. You realize that, right?
Yeah, I'm the bad influence of just giving you drinking holidays.
You know what? I want to see Nate in a bathing suit because we are doing the Asylum.
I think you said
Pool
that in
party.
the wrong order here.
Swim trunks,
No,
not bathing
no.
suit.
You can put it whatever context you want to do it, dude. It's gonna be gold.
Yeah.
I'll say it this way: I'd love to do that party, and I would not necessarily at the top of my list is I want to see Nate in a bathing
if
suit.
Tom Lazuka is still listening.
I don't
That's
want to see Tom
only reason
Lazuka
I brought it
in
up.
a bathing suit. There's a lot of my friends I don't want to see in a bathing suit. But if we're doing a party like that, I'll do it.
Tom kept. Hey, listen. Tonight, Tom responded like 3 times. We got to like one of his things, but he might be watching still. So
I love it.
I'm calling him out.
We're gonna miss Tom at the smoking tent event. You guys, I mean, with the drinking holidays, I mean, again, we keep going back to, you know, even the podcast.
I can see my breath out here now.
You can
It's
see it in
cold
the garage
here.
too. But let's
called cigar smoke.
Let's roll into it. So at the end of part 2, a lot of times Tim
Let's
Dodge
do it.
says swimming britches. Yeah, like kind of roll into like round it out, you know, closing remarks. Let's you know, part 2, we typically try to just round it out with kind of a conclusion from everyone. But you want to start, Nate?
Sure. My whole thing when it comes to drinking the quote unquote drinking holidays, I would rather hang out with friends and drink with them, like at their house or at a party or whatever, than go out to a bar and drink. Now, probably the most memorable experience at a bar for me was a particular college football game. My dad was there, my brother-in-law, my sister was there, some other friends of theirs were all there, and that's one of the few times I've ever that my dad and my brother-in-law ever hugged early on was after that game.
It's like the Cubs game that Ryan brought up.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I was
exactly.
talking to my dad on the phone. I'm like tearing up. I'm like,
well,
what size shirt do you want? Like, I just.
Well, like my thing is, I'd rather come over to Steve's on Memorial Day or Labor Day,
Sure,
or July 4th, than go out to a bar on Paddy's Day or New Year's Eve, because I'd rather be around just a group of friends than a bar full of complete strangers.
I'd agree with that. I mean, sorry, I know
No, it's fine.
It's when like people want to go to like a new bar, or they're like, hey, we always go to this place that's comfortable because that's like same thing with cigar shops. It's like, hey, you know, let's go to a new cigar shop, and all you do is you end up like sitting around with the same people, smoking cigars, talking to them. It's like, why did we drive all this way to this new place? We could have just gone to our normal place. Like, I get that mentality. I love that at, you know, Fido last year with like Sean Anderson, Ray Cheshire was in town, Bobby Hirschman. Nook and Tom and all these people were there. It's like on Paddy's Day, the people that were there, it's like, yeah, maybe they don't go to like Sean Anderson. He doesn't go to Paddy's Day parties at tents.
No.
But when he was there, had a blast.
Absolutely.
Because you're with the people that you want to be with.
Yeah.
If you didn't work on Sundays, that type of thing, it's like, hey, we're gonna go like hang out at the bar like Double Barrel.
Yeah.
And watch some football. You guys free? You want to come out? Yeah. You'd probably have fun.
Yeah, I would.
But it doesn't necessarily like reset. You're like, I need to do Sunday Fun Day every week, wherever it is. But it's the people.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the best Halloween parties I ever went to was actually a coworker of mine when I was still working at Battelle.
Mm-hmm.
They lived close by. And, Jess and I had gone to that party, and Jess knew she was going to be driving home. But there were some great stories that happened at that party. I had a great time. Thankfully for Jess, when I drink too much, I'm a happy drunk. I'm not an angry drunk.
That is fortunate. Yes.
I laugh and giggle a lot, which is fortunate for her. But also she tells me, like, if I'm at Steve's house on a Wednesday night doing this podcast, if I drink too much, two things. One, I know Steve will let me crash on the couch.
100%.
I absolutely know that because Steve's a friend of mine. He cares about me and vice versa. And he wants me to be safe. I also know that even though we live on the other side of town, if I call up Jess and say, hey, I've had too much to drink, I don't feel like crashing on Steve's couch, she will, because I guarantee you she's in bed right now. She will get out of bed, get dressed, come all the way over here and pick me up. She won't be happy about it, but she will do it, and she will be happy that I called her rather than trying to drive home.
Well, I'd rather pay for that. As expensive it might be, is pay for that Uber or Lyft, and just she can drive you in the morning.
Yeah.
Keep her in bed. You get home. If you don't want to stay here, that's fine. I'll go halves on the Uber.
Yeah, and she also knows I'm going to fall asleep in the car and then probably on the couch in the basement.
Let's go thirds.
She'd rather me go down the stairs. She'd rather
I'll
me go
pay
down
for
the
a
stairs.
third of that.
All right, so we're going to split it up. Nook will pay for part of that Uber.
Well,
we'll get you home safe.
So when I was still doing sales support, the rep that I supported who lives up in Michigan, he would come down. I remember there was one year he came down because he was meeting some clients that actually had offices here in town.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time, but his intention was after we were done meeting clients, we were going to go bar hopping in the Short North. This was also one of the days Jess and I were moving into our new place. So obviously that didn't make Jess very happy. But no, we literally we went bar hopping in the Short North.
Yeah.
And
it's a good cork pop every time.
Good. Yeah, every time. And then he paid like $35 for this Uber driver to drive me from Short North Columbus all the way to Hilliard.
Yeah.
But the reason he did that is he knew how much I meant to him professionally.
Yeah.
How much I did for him work-wise.
How much money you made him.
Yeah, exactly. How much money I make him. And so he wanted to show some type of appreciation. One of the other sales reps I would support every single year, he'd give me a bottle of bourbon because he knew I liked it, and that was his way of showing gratitude.
Sure.
But he also, both those guys knew that I wasn't just going to go out bar hopping.
Right.
But because I was with them, like, sure, I will go hang out with you because it's something I don't get to do that often. And if that's what we're, again, he doesn't live in town. He doesn't even live in this state. So it's not like I can go to his house when he's having a Memorial Day party and hang out and drive home.
So what are you trying to say with the whole drinking holiday thing?
One, be responsible. We post that on the bottom ticker of this podcast every single week.
Do it right now.
Drink responsibly. Don't ruin it for others.
Yeah. And yourself.
And yourself. Because if something tragic happens, it's the other people that have to deal with it,
Yeah.
not you. It's other people around you that have to deal with that, and that's not necessarily fair to them.
I agree.
But I know we have a tendency in this country to look at every single day off and holiday as a drinking holiday.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten a little carried away. Because then there's nothing special about it anymore. And you always see it every single year, especially when it comes to Memorial Day, Veterans Day, because those are days that people get off work. Like, people use those as an excuse to have a party and drink.
Yeah.
And it causes them to forget the purpose of the day itself.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
And so if you want to use that day to be able to have a party and do something, great. Don't forget why you're doing it. Don't forget the reason for that day.
Well, if you're going to drink, and this is not joking, but like at least cheers to why and have that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that. We got there, Nook. Jefferson's.
It's the rye, though.
Mm.
The ocean rye?
The rye doesn't come out too often. So.
No, I haven't seen it much. No.
Yeah, Jefferson's makes just a regular straight rye.
Yes, they do.
That's not even available in Ohio.
No.
So that's what this is. This is straight up rye.
Nice.
I want that.
So Nook, you mind if I do my closing remarks, then you can round it out, and we'll end it. And if you want to stay on for a little bit after the podcast.
Wait. Can I say that I will bring a sample of this to the 10 event tomorrow?
Well, bring it to the tinderbox. I don't know about the 10 event. We did have someone like if Jonathan Jonathan Herring was asking, he's like, "Are we allowed to bring our own bottle to?"
You know what? But
No.
Nate wants to try this, so I'm going to bring a little sample and give it to him.
There's a reason why.
Nate's going to be in the shop during it. So full disclosure, for the 10 event, we have a full bar, cash and credit, all that stuff. So yes, if you're in the tent, support the event, support our partners in the event with Fido Irish Pub. If you're in town for the weekend and you want to bring bottles or whatever for some friends or the community, that's fine.
Yes.
Don't do it in the tent.
Yes, that's what we had last year.
That's how we did it.
Yes.
So, Nook, do you want to do your closing remarks on the topic, or do you want me to roll into mine and you can round it out? What do you want to do?
I will roll out after you did.
All right. So, for me, with the drinking holidays and taking a step back to enjoy it, again, not being a parent, being in my 40s, I am fortunate that I am now, for the last 10 years, being in the cigar business, and it is a little looser, more old school type of thing, right? I like that. There are days that I need to make more time for sleep and taking care of myself and doing all that stuff. I try to balance that. But I will say is that I do enjoy doing the podcast with all of you guys that listen to it, that are a part of it, that have been guests on it. Nate, having you a part of it. Just moved Jake Sanders into his new house in Zanesville. That he started this, and I gave my 2 cents and have taken it from there. I enjoy cracking a bottle with friends.
Absolutely. I've saved a bottle to share with friends.
I know. I enjoy hosting events. We had that one moment, and we talked about it previously on the podcast. I had people on my back patio. It was a cookout.
Oh yeah,
remember that? And something like this,
Memorial Day last year.
And bless her heart, good friend of mine and the podcast and people that are involved in the podcast. And it says, well, it's like, what are you doing like to like support people? And I said, as they're sitting on my back patio, I'm like, well, contrary to a lot of people's everyday life, I invite people over to my house and host a holiday party and also try to provide as much as I can and include people that want to be here. And
also host a podcast every single week
and
that
host a
people are welcome
podcast
to.
that we created a community through this. It's like, this is something, it is a common hobby. Drinking is not necessarily always bad, but it can be bad. But I like the fact that smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, or drinking and just, again, I mentioned, like, Sunday fun days, like whether you drink wine, you drink whiskey, you drink beer, you do what, it does bring people together. As someone that's been a part of, and I, before I worked at the Tinderbox, I was a regular at the Tinderbox and also Fido Irish Pub, who are our partners with the Smoking Tent event. You get to know people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how much money do you spend, to the business side of it, maybe, but it's like, it's those things that get people involved. And I think it translates as you get maybe older and more experienced, is that when you look at people going through life situations, positive, negative, sure, but mainly positive, is that you remember that it's, you buy them a bottle, you buy them a cake, you buy them a gift, you buy them those things. And it's like, it's not about I'm keeping tally on it. It's just about the fact that you want, like, there's something inherent to doing those things, that it's like, those are gifts and moments that you can have with those people. You can invite them over your place. You can invite them to a Tigers opening game. You can, Ryan asking about the game set, the Cubs World Series, like, that is so impactful. And the drinking holiday, that wasn't for everyone. My dad didn't have a drink that night, and he knew I had been drinking that night. But we had a moment on the phone that I didn't watch it with him, but as soon as that game was over, who was my first call?
Your dad.
My dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was super impactful, and I'll always have that, God rest him, is that those are those just really impactful moments. And like, something as just, again, I talked to Nate before the podcast, like, let's have a light topic, like the Paddy's Day thing, whatever your holiday is, or even if you just want to find a fucking happy hour, just do it. But it's a happy hour sitting at your place, on your back patio, Nate, or if you guys find a good happy hour near you, just find a moment for yourself. If you enjoy drinking, not drinking to excess all the time, but if you enjoy having a cigar, if you enjoy having a drink, you can do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to allow yourself. There's no reason to have like this, like, chip on your shoulder that you always have to be working. You can't allow yourself to let loose every once in a while. If you work 52 weeks out of the year and you allow yourself just 1 or 2 weeks to just allow yourself to enjoy life, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working to the grind. I'm just saying, like, you do it long enough, you're going to want that moment. You're going to get resentful. So allowing yourself to take a vacation, to take a St. Patrick's Day party, whatever it is, a Super Bowl party. Nate, if I invited you to a Super Bowl party, like, nah, I got to work in the morning. I got to stick to the plan. It's the all work and no play makes
Johnny a dull boy, or Nate a dull boy.
That's it. And we've all been there. So I think that, my closing remarks is, it's Paddy's Day again. I know not everyone takes Paddy's Day as a holiday. It was a holiday for me because it was all about friends. It's all about people that are close to me, that I'm close to them. And I really value the time with them. It was a lot of fun over the years, a lot of good memories. And I don't want that to stop. And in my current, direction of my life, I'm not going to let it happen. The only thing I'll say is be smart about it and try to enjoy yourself and know your limits. And we all know as we get older that our limits get a little shorter.
They do change.
We don't recover as fast as we used to.
I said that earlier.
Plan accordingly.
Hangovers at 45 hit differently than they do at 25.
Plan accordingly.
Yes, they do.
Make sure you have a liquid IV and maybe some caffeine, whether it be coffee or pre-workout. But yeah,
Pedialyte.
Pedialyte, amazing. Nook, how about you?
Have
Closing
those.
remarks, round it out for us, and we'll round out here.
All right. There was so much I wanted to say. I even texted Tom and I said, "Are you still watching?" He's like, "Dude, I got stuck. I'm at an event over in the Carolinas right now, and I can't talk." But all I can say is, the fact that we drink at these events and this and that, it's all in good fun. And knowing me from the retailer side, Tom has dragged me out to a million of these things. And you know what? It's all been good. And
You enjoy yourself, though.
it's been amazing. But, do we have to drink? No. But we do. And you know what, man? It's fun. So that's
I
it.
think when you center it around drinking, not always the healthy option, but when you include that, if people enjoy that, we do a podcast that's surrounded by bourbon and cigars. And the one thing, Nook, you've been a part of this podcast several times. The part 2 is funny. Like when we were doing this tasting, and if you listen to intermission, we're doing the tasting, and Ann Dimmick, who's been on the podcast before, who's with OHLQ, she has chimed in. And towards the end of the evening that night, it was all about the podcast. And this is someone that has worked for major distilleries. Now she's with our Ohio Liquor Agency, and she's commented on there. Even when people comment on this, she's not listening tonight, but it's like, she's like, yeah, part 2 is the best. That's what it's all about. That's why we do this part 2. For those who listen, and they're like, why the fuck are they not talking about bourbon? Why are they not talking about cigars? It's like, this is the point. Like the whole drinking holiday thing. This is the point. It brings people together so that then you can tackle everything else in life. Yeah, you might have a couple of whiskeys or drinks in you. You might be smoking,
so
you might be doing that, but it's like we wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for this common bond.
And it is the common bond. Like when I was a retailer, we went to every opening day because Camacho sponsored the cigar bar. So I was there with Tom, Christian, everybody that has anything to do with Davidoff, actually now too. And that's what it was. We all drank. We drank a lot. And it was just fun. And it was all the customers and everybody. And you know what? We had a great time. And I just talked to Tom and like, dude, we will never take anything back for what we did. This is fun.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is that you want to try to have fun. You want to find fun. You want to find people you want to have fun with. And I think there's a lot of the relationships and the conversations that build off of that is why there are, quote, drinking holidays, is because sometimes life will beat you down. But if, like Nate said earlier, that Jess, his wife, said, well, now you can sample or drink before noon and it won't be negative. I think there's a negative connotation to some of this stuff. Smoking, drinking, being a loner, doing that stuff. It's like, oh, wait, we can do this for business.
But
we can do this for friends.
You know what?
I've met so many good people doing this stuff. It's a phenomenon that people sometimes look down upon but it's so great to see the community.
But tailgating,
comments and being a part of this is that like the good company, as Ronnie says out there, so many memories are made with good company. You got to have a common bond as you get older, and that's what we have.
but tailgating is the biggest part of that.
Mhm.
We get
Tailgating, drinking in a garage, whatever it might be. All right, guys. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Nook, we'll see you this weekend at the Tinderbox
you will
East in
see me
Columbus, Ohio.
tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'm saying everyone coming into town or going to the event, you'll see Nook, and Nook will have a special guest. And Nook's amazing. I'm sorry, you already know you're going to be shadowed by Christian Eiroa coming in.
Oh yeah,
because he is one of the stars of the event. He's one of the featured guests, and we're going to get him up on stage. If you're listening, I'm going to put out something tomorrow and the next day about getting some questions for the Q&A with Christian Eiroa.
Ask him anything.
Ask him anything.
Ask him anything.
Hector Alfonso from Espinosa Cigars. We have Ricky Rodriguez, who was a guest last week. We've got some heavy hitters coming into Columbus. So if you bought a ticket, it's sold out. But we hope you guys have a great weekend, whether you're with us or not. And cheers.
cheers.
Thank you, Nook. Cheers. Guys, we will see you next week, if not sooner. Hopefully, we'll see you this weekend in the tent. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Happy Smoking Tent event, 10th anniversary.